Can you guys hear us okay? Just a thumbs up if you can hear us. Somebody. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Oh. Yes, we're recording.
We can't hear you guys at all now. No. Brandolyn, we can't hear at all.
Okay, so we are on public comment. We have two people that want to comment publicly. And you want to comment on Rex wants to comment on the donations account. And Mark wants to comment at that time too. You don't want to comment now?
I'd rather do it then, but I have one other comment that's totally unrelated to everything.
If you want to do that, does it have
Yeah.
to do with anything on the agenda?
Yes, so the county is putting on a open meeting law training on, I think it's January 25th. I don't know if we can get invited, but I think it would be something good for, I think it's the 25th. I can get you that information, but it is something that I think would be very beneficial for all of the board members. Do you know when it is or where it is or anything?
The 16th doesn't sound familiar.
No, 20, I think it's the 25th, but anyway, I just want you to be aware of that, and that would be, it would be good for all of the board members to understand the open meeting laws. They're very complicated, but.
The 13th.
January 13th, okay.
So you'll let us know if we get an invite.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
And it's just a Zoom deal, so.
I Zoom. Okay.
I told Dorothy about it, but she said the school is providing additional.
Well,
SPCSA is providing a training for us, and I talked to them about if we should have specific training, and they said for our team, what they provide should cover everything we need.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought we needed to have it before we started having meetings, and she said, no, you're fine. So I think she trusts our group is because they have experience, hopefully. But I think if anybody wants to attend that, I think the more training you get on it, the better. So. Okay, item number 3, we don't have any of that. Item number 4, approval of minutes. You should have that in your packet.
Under the current meeting tab.
Any recommendations for changes? Anything anybody saw? It looks like everything got aligned, and you reformatted it.
Yeah.
Um,
that be.
right.
For now.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? So. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I vote aye. Motion passes. Then we have governing board policy and procedure committee meeting minutes. And so this was so Lisa and Dorothy and Kim had their minutes. Are there any discussion on the minutes of their meeting? When we discovered that when we have these subcommittees that we have to agendize those and have minutes. Okay. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move to
Okay.
approve the minutes.
Motion by Dorothy. You have a second?
I second.
Kim seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Hey, item number 5, financial. So Hank should be doing a financial report. Hank, do you want to attempt to do that via Zoom? We'll see if we can hear you. Hank, are you there?
Hank has left.
Hank has left.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not on.
If he comes back, then we can
Okay.
bring that one back around.
I'll
So we
let
can
you know if he comes back on.
table that one. Item B under financial account access updates, and that's Hank and Dr. Thrawn. So maybe Brandon, you'll have to walk us through that.
Okay, so this is the continued conversation with regards to the bank accounts. So in your folder is this graphic, and for the public, I'll just try to put this so you can see what I'm talking about. So this was the recommendation that we had from CAN as far as how to set the bank accounts up, having the Elko County Federal Credit Union being the school generated fund account. And then we have general checking account at Nevada State Bank, the operations account. The Elko County, or excuse me, the Elko Federal Credit Union account, the school generated funds account is monitored and managed using QuickBooks. And the access to that account is the school leader and a banker, the person who will become our banker when that person is hired and or assigned as the banker. The operations account would be again the Nevada State Bank account, and that is monitored using the chart of accounts, the state chart of accounts, and that's what CAM will be monitoring. The access to that account is the school leader, Hank as the board treasurer, Colleen as the authorized user from CAM, and Ron Vick as a signer associated with CAM. The idea is that the school generated funds draw down that Elko Federal Credit Union, put the money into the operations account, leaving $5,000 for the discretionary funds for the school, and then donations and the operating money is in the Nevada State Bank. And the importance for having the donations going into that operations account is that it's building up our capacity to demonstrate financial solvency. And so as we are moving towards our next steps at purchasing property or a building or portables or whatever it is we need to do to expand, we're going to need to be able to demonstrate that we have this X dollars in operations account. And so this is the recommendation that we were given from Cam, who is the back office people for our school. And that's what I have to start the conversation.
Okay, Ron, we've had some questions. Some of the board members had questions about that, and we have two people from the public that have input on that. Partially, one of the questions came from Dorothy, that she set things up as requested by you originally, and then now it looks like that's changing. And I think part of that was because you requested to set it up when we had a founding board, but now we've transitioned to the governing board, and that may be the reason that things are changing. Can you tell us about that?
Right. So if you're so are we talking specifically about the funds that you have and moving those to operations, or are you talking about what bank would be most beneficial for Cam? I mean, for us down in Las Vegas, access to Nevada State Bank is much easier than a bank that is up there solely in Elko or up in Northern Nevada. So I don't know, it's multiple locations. So that made it easier for us. The SGF certainly could stay up there. That makes complete sense, because that's a principal's discretionary, and trust funds are in that account. But if I needed to go ahead and get access to that account, not having it locally to Las Vegas would be even more complicated. So we were looking to go ahead and continue with Nevada State Bank. We already are partner with them already, so it was certainly an ease for us to do your back office from Las Vegas, having a bank that was in Las Vegas, or a branch.
Yeah, I think there were concerns and about donations, losing control over that money is kind of the feeling that I got from the board. But we have to have that to operate the school at this point, because we don't have any other income. So that's why you're saying that money needs to be in operations, and then the local Brandon would still have control over that for, minor purchases within for her.
Absolutely. I think Brandolin is correct. I mean, it was my advice that as much money as you can place in that operations account, the better. If you're trying to demonstrate to the state public charter school authority that you have money in your bank account that is accessible to the school, versus money that's in a separate foundation that is at the will of the foundation, whether or not the school gets the money. So that was the thinking there. I mean, I think it's going to take a significant amount of money to get up and running. And I'm sure that she'll go through a majority of that money, if not all of it, if not more of it. I'm not sure. We're still working out the final details of the budget, and that's where we are now. We're kind of in the budget part of our work that we're doing with your school, trying to go ahead and get a solid number and making sure that we have enough revenue and capital to go ahead and get started.
And in our last meeting with you, it kind of sounded like we may need to be borrowing during this first year to even cover expenses. Are you still kind of under that?
Yeah, that's pretty common. Is people will go out and borrow. The State Public Charter School Authority has some money available to go ahead and get started. But the goal is not to be, have a lot of debt your first year. statements to show that you can go ahead and run your business and clean that debt within the first 2 years, the authority would prefer that you repay that debt within 2 years. If you don't repay within 2 years, they start getting a suspect that you don't have, a solid control of your finances. But with a thoughtful and meaningful growth plan, as far as growing revenue, as far as growth of students, I think that there's a plan in place where you can pay off whatever startup cost there might be in addition to the money that you have already that you've raised.
Okay, and then in year two, when in the preliminary budget, we started to gain ground. In that, can you kind of explain the foundation you guys have? So money that we have, let's say we get donations in year two, that money can go to the foundation. Can you talk about what the foundation does for us?
Well,
Or can do for us?
yeah, the foundation's totally up. What your participation in your own foundation, or possibly your participation in FEL, Founders Educational Legacy, is kind of completely up to you. My concern is that you have enough capital to go ahead and do your startup costs. What your board, or what a secondary board, or what you might do with FEL, for example, in the future, is up to all of you. Brenda Lynn's going to have a budget. She's going to have a certain amount of money, and she's going to have to make that work. She's your school leader. If she needs additional funds and it's within a foundation, then she's going to have to go to that foundation and ask for those funds. But if the reality is that the money that's collected so far is to start up the school, then the quicker you can get that money to the school leader so she can make decisions to get the school up and running, and not to go back and have to request funds piecemeal. I just think it makes it easier.
Questions anybody has for Ron, or comments?
I just don't understand, why do we have to borrow money for salaries and
So Fernando's question is, if you couldn't hear him, is why do we have to borrow money? And Ron, tell us kind of when we will get income from the state, when that comes through, and then, but when we also have to start paying bills.
All right, Colleen, when did we get our first revenue check lately? The last couple of years, our first revenue check from the state for the new fiscal year. So when should they suspect the first one? Best guess.
Usually the first one is a little late and it's at the end of July, beginning of August for the July DSA. The DSA is always paid at the end of the month for the previous month. But the first one is sometimes a little late, so sometimes it goes into August.
And I think they told us they were going to try to get it earlier.
If we get our enrollment done by May, we may get paid July 1.
That would be awesome, but
We don't want to count on that.
But who told you that? The State Public Charter School Authority or the state of Nevada?
Katie.
Katie Brock.
Yeah, I'd be somewhat suspect of that. I would be somewhat suspect, because the state is the one that pays, not the State Public Charter School Authority. I'm not sure how much true control they have over the actions of the state and how they distribute state funds, but I think the important thing is that you find an enrollment that, like we spoke about before, Brandolin, that you find an enrollment number that works for you. And then as far as a budget, and then we make any adjustments we need to as far as class size or whatever. That's a preferred way
Right.
to get up and running. And then, of course, the state allows you to go ahead and go 10% over your student number that they provide for you in year 1 or year 2 of your charter, whatever it happens to be. So for us here at Founders, when I was executive director, I still am now, but I always try to go higher, enroll more kids, because you're going to have the normal kids that are going to drop off your roll and not going to show up on day 1. And you never want to land below your projected enrollment number. So you always want to over enroll with the understanding that not everyone's going to show up. And if you have too many kids, you can always, as kids leave or transfer out or whatever, and they will during the school year, you can always not replace those kids. But it gets more and more difficult to transfer kids in during the school year because they're already comfortable in the school that they're in. So I typically run my class size, like if class size, for example, say your class size is 25, I'd run my class size to 27 on day one, just to make sure I have adequate enrollment to meet my projection. So Brando and I have already talked about that. And that also helps ensure that you have the revenue in place and you don't land short. Because if you land short, then the state's not going to go ahead and pay you. They're going to do a true up, or they're going to start asking for money back. And that can get really, really complicated and difficult for a startup charter when the state starts asking for money back.
Let me see if I understood the answer to my question. So after we spend the money, we need to borrow money so we can get to the point where we get reimbursed by the state, correct?
Yes, that may be true. But you may need additional funds to actually start up. For example, when Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas started as a school, it borrowed money from the authority, and it took about 2 years to pay that money back to get the startup cost paid for. That's what we're working on now on the budget. So
Okay.
I spoke to Brandon about that. So do we know yet an accurate number as far as the amount of revenue you're going to need and broken down those expenses completely to know whether or not you're going to need extra revenue in terms of a loan, and then how long it would take to repay it? We don't know. And it might mean, changing your class size or something like that to make that work. I mean, when you're talking about a single student, it's a significant amount of money. And you can get, by adding one student per classroom, it can make a significant difference in your budget. So we're just at that process right now. We typically do that. December through January is when we start to work on that particular work and get a good tentative budget that Brandon will present to your board.
But what we know is and I think to loop us back to the conversation we need to solve, is all of the donations that we've received need to be spent on starting up the school.
Do we have a projected donation goal, let's say, a donation goal that we need?
Sort of, we're working on that. So
Okay.
we presented this at the last meeting and
Okay.
you missed it, but that's okay. I can show it to you right here.
That's fine.
But again, back to the issue at hand is we need to solve this issue regarding the money so that we can start having different conversations. And so right now, and I guess my question is, what is the concern? Like, what's the fear when we transfer the money to the operations account and the donations? Like, I think we need to solve this problem so that we can move forward, because we know we're going to spend out there's a high probability, we know based on our projections already, all of the donation money we have is spent.
And weren't the donations earmarked for the startup of the school? Isn't that why people donated? Was to start the school?
I assume so. We have Rex and Mark here, and I know they want to speak, so they were a part of that. So maybe Rex, you can say what.
Another thing that all the meetings I've ever been to, you have your speakers identify themselves. So
Go ahead, Rex. And
I'm Rex Senninger from the former founding board. And I understand what Ron's saying here, that it's easier for them, and I get that. But I think it's important. The credit union was one of our early donors, and those early donations allowed us to move forward to the point we're at now. And I personally feel a great deal of thankfulness and loyalty to those early donors. I think moving that money, the whole shoot match, right now from the credit union and putting it in the Nevada State Bank is a slap in the face to the credit union. And I think it'll have repercussions down the road when we want to go look for more money. They're gonna laugh at us. See, we donated money and you moved all the money out to a bank that hasn't contributed to you. I just think that's, this is still a small town. They're gonna know that we did that.
Yes.
So I understand what Ron's saying, that it's easier for them, but I think that the second point is, I think that gives you, the board, more control. If you just give them the whole, what's it, $345,000, and how, you don't have any control of it. If I was in your position, I'd much rather they'd say, you know, I need 20,000 for this, I need 10,000 for that, and it's a simple matter to transfer it from the credit union over to the Nevada State Bank to do it that way. And you just have more control over it. And, you know, I really didn't understand what Brandon was saying about when you go to borrow money, you have to show that your resources, well, you can show them 2 bank accounts, can't you? But that didn't make any sense to me. And just for another example, I just stopped at Gallagher Ford and picked up a donation for $25,000. And I feel the same way about that. I mean, if we decided that Brandon needed a car, we ought to go to Gallagher Ford to talk to them about buying the car. We don't go to Elko Motors that hasn't donated to us. So that's all I say. I think we need to be loyal to our donors. And it's a simple matter to transfer money as the operation account needs it from the credit union to Nevada State Bank.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rex. And just to clarify, we're not closing, this proposal doesn't close the Elko Federal Credit Union account, right?
Correct.
But it moves all the money except $5,000 now.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's wiser to move it to operational as needed. You know, maybe by September, it is down to 5,000.
Well, it's all needed right now. That's the problem.
Why?
Because we have to buy all the furniture and equipment and pay her salary, and now's when we need it there to do all the
You
purchasing.
don't need.
Not all 345,000.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna spend all of that. It's gonna all be gone probably before we get our money from the state, what we have left, and we're gonna need more. We haven't started our fundraising group yet, and that's the next thing we're gonna be
I just think
working
it
on.
makes more sense to move it to. I don't know if you needed that much of equipment, but 100,000 at a time. You just try to keep the credit union as involved as possible.
Yeah.
Your decision.
Well, we just have a few months here to get all that stuff purchased. That's where most of it's gonna go, is purchasing equipment. I mean, we've received like this stuff, but we haven't equipped classrooms or anything like that. So that 345,000 is gonna disappear within the next couple months. And then we're gonna be borrowing money. So that's what, Ron, you want to chime in on how fast we'll go through $345,000?
Yeah, it moves pretty quickly, definitely, because you have startup costs. There's a lot of it's involved in curriculum cost around the Hillsdale curriculum. All the books, all the disposable books that go along with that, all the classroom supplies. You have a lot of employees that you're going to have to start to pay. So there's a lot of startup costs in doing something like this. So that's the reason we need to focus over the next month and a half on getting the budget to you guys, so you'll have a good solid tentative budget you can take forward. But it is expensive, and it gets more and more expensive as the years go by.
If that savings account at the Federal Credit Union gets drained, there's still the understanding that donations in the future would be deposited in that account.
Could be, or they go into operations depending on where they're needed.
Well, I think, I feel strongly that the donations need to stay separate from the operations. And so even though the credit union account would be drained very quickly this year, it would be built up from now on with future donations. That's just a,
Can you, Brandlin, can you go to the budget?
There are actually two bank accounts at the credit union. There's a checking account and a savings account.
right.
For your.
Okay,
From
so,
my experience, operations money are obviously essential to start, but whatever money, for some reason, this is different for me.
Mhm.
Because for us, it's always have been operations, and after there is always residual money for operations that goes into the foundation versus the foundation or the savings feeding operations fees,
Because your profit,
the
right?
feeds the savings account.
and that eventually, that's the goal, right? We've talked about that. You know, because as we progress, every year when we roll up kids, we move out of the red and into the black. Legally, we cannot operate in the red.
Exactly.
So that's why this money is going to transfer. So just let record show Hank Thurston is now here in person. And Hank, we're talking about the financial account act. We kind of got away from what that item is that we're supposed to be discussing.
Okay.
But so there's a lot of questions pertain around the money that we have right now needing to be used in operations. And we have Mr. Steninger that feels that he wants to keep that at the credit union. But Ron Fick's saying, you know, we need it for operations because we have to be able to purchase the things we need to purchase. We can't be trying to access the credit union. It's easier for them to access it there. But the issue is, one way or the other, we're going to have to get a loan. We're going to use up the money that we have, or we leave it there and get a loan for everything we need and try to pay it back and leave the donations as a donations and borrow more. So which makes more sense?
But just to correct you, Joe, I think that Mr. Steninger didn't say he didn't want to fund the operations account. He said he wanted to fund it as needed, not transfer all the money immediately.
Okay, well, like I said,
Just saying
it's
that's
needed-
corrected.
It's needed now. Oh, yeah, however you phrased it. So,
Now means tomorrow.
now means,
Use it in the next couple of months.
now
I
means,
just preferred you kept it as long as possible in the credit union. And move it as slowly as possible to state, by the state bank.
so Ron, what would be, he's asking about moving it as slowly as possible. What does that look like?
So for all of us right now, we're waiting to get the sales tax issue worked out. What's the timing on the sales tax right now, Colleen?
The letter says, was received on December 3rd, and they said, please allow 60 days for them to review it. So it'll be February 3rd.
Okay, so we're working on your tax exempt status for sales tax. So that's probably, we probably don't want to buy anything that we have to pay sales tax on before that time because we don't want to pay sales tax. So we're working that particular documentation. So that's probably that date or before is when you'd want to start moving. So I believe that Brandolin has put together a multitude of purchase orders. I know that people from Founders Classical Academy have worked with her to let her know exactly what she needs to purchase to be in alignment with Hillsdale's K-12 curriculum and their program guide. So I know that my staff as well has worked with her on furnishings, broken down everything down to every piece of furniture she needs. So I think what we're really waiting for, and I know Daniel worked with them on computers as well. I think what we're waiting for is the sales tax approval. So as soon as you guys are free of the sales tax obligation in the state of Nevada, that's when the purchasing is going to happen like immediately. It's going to be, many purchase orders going through all at the same time.
Okay, and Ron, tell us how it is at your school. Does your board control that, or is that left up to the school leader
The
to
board-
determine their spending?
Yeah, our board has no money. All the money is with the school. The board does not have board has a treasurer, but the only purpose of the treasurer is to lead the audit committee. When they go in and they may come out and look at our books inside the building, take a cursory visual look at our bank accounts and statements and such. But the board itself has no control over any money unless there's something embedded within the financial policies. For example, if you have something in your financial policies that sets some type of limit that Brandolyn can, in which she can make a purchase, and if it exceeds that number, she has to get board approval. So what typically happens, like if I start getting into a situation where I have to do a lot of large purchases, like something around expansion, like in our last expansion process, the board does a motion that Mr. Fick can go ahead and spend any amount of money within that particular fund for startup costs for the new expansion that we're doing. So if I get things that are $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000, for example, I don't have to go to the board on every one of those. So they kind of do a sweeping one that kind of clarifies that there's a special circumstance here. And although the financial policies say I can't, purchase anything over $10,000, that in this particular instance or these instances I can.
Okay,
Doesn't the NRS require certain
Mark,
bidding?
can you identify yourself? So,
Oh. Mark Paris, former founding board member. I just have a question mainly for Ron. Is it still have like if you buy $100,000 worth of something, you have to go out to bid? Is that requirement still around? I haven't done an audit for quite a few years, but there used to be standards for maximum that you could purchase without going out to bid.
Right. That's true, but it's usually it depends on the value of those particular things. When it comes to school startup, it's really not an issue because we're buying from multiple vendors, multiple things, and you're really not, big enough to go ahead and have anything that's that kind of a number. So you're going to go out and do bids. I know that like on our last expansion, we had to do bids and we had to pay prevailing wage and go through all that process with the IRS and the local labor board. But for general purchases that are done within a public building to run your day-to-day operations or to do your startup costs, you typically don't have to do anything competitive. However, if your board wants to set something in financial policies that says that if there's any purchase that's over, for example, $25,000 or something in this particular startup process, that Brandolyn has to bring at least 3 bids to you, you could do that. But your situation right now is that time is of the essence, and once you get your sales tax exemption approved, you're going to be working quickly and feverishly. Well, you won't. Your school leader will, to go ahead and get all these things in place, because ultimately your goal is to start a school and open the school on time. And ultimately, the only person responsible for that is the school leader. Your job is to supervise her to a certain extent, and is certainly to evaluate her progress. This is all on her to do correctly. The board's job is governance. The board's job is policy. It is the school leader's sole responsibility to lead the school and to make those purchases to ensure that this school is successful. This is the way that you show that you are ultimately confident in her ability to do this work. I think she's fortunate, and I'm just saying this in the nicest way possible, is that she has so many people down in Las Vegas that are willing to go ahead and guide her in the right direction to ensure that you guys launch with a lot less problems than you would. I know she talks to other schools that are up north of you guys that don't have the same support from us down here in Vegas. and we are happy to do it. Trust me. All my staff is happy to help you guys out. Nobody over here is going to say no. But it is a lot of work, and she really needs to have her hands on the steering wheel. It kind of reminds me of the old Driving Miss Daisy movie, you know? You know, you got to let her drive to the Piggly Wiggly, and you just need to go ahead and get in the back seat, and then you can evaluate her later. Certainly you want to provide oversight, but you do not want to be telling her left or right on every single move and every single dollar.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, and actually where our money is located isn't even on the agenda, so that's not an item. But Hank, our item is account access.
Yeah,
If you want to tell us what your recommendation is on who's signing and who's accessing accounts.
I think that Dr. Thron needs to have unfettered access to operational funds as described in the budget. And every year, this board approves the budget, so we've got that 12 months in advance. That money, excuse me, that money needs to be provided to operational funds, and we need to get out of the way on that. However, we have a lot more money, and with the startup year, this is a little bit different. But in general, we will have a lot more money in accounts than will be required for a year of operation, especially as we start fundraising for capital improvement in the future. At that point, I feel that that money should be held under the authority of this board for long-term planning and then dispersed to operational funds yearly or monthly, however we decide to do that. But I think the bulk of that donations needs to be stored in our EFCU accounts with you know, the oversight of this board. One of the reasons I feel so strongly about that is fundraising. This community is very generous, but it will be a hard sell for me to go to my friends in this community and they say, hey, I really like what you're doing with that school. I want to give you $20,000. You know, what are you going to do with it? And I'll say, well, it's being managed by this board in Vegas. They're going to close their wallets. We are their friends. We are their neighbors. They are the ones, or we are the ones that they are trusting with that. And so I think that those legacy funds, those donation funds, whatever we want to call them, have to be maintained with the oversight of this board.
So what is that? Is that a foundation or what is that?
So this goes back to the conversations we had in the last couple meetings. I don't think we need to create a separate foundation for it. I think we as this board can oversee that. I guess some of that depends on the role of the treasurer in our bylaws, which I think as currently written, that allows this board and through me as treasurer to oversee those funds, to monitor them and so forth. If we wanted to, we could found a second board to do that. I expressed my hesitation to do that for certain reasons in previous conversations. But I think either of those options is better than just putting all of that in operational funding and not having our immediate oversight of it.
So you ran the risk analysis, right? And you know that the money we currently have either has to go to operations now or we have to borrow money.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what's your feeling on that? Should we just borrow from the state and keep our donations to use for capital projects in the future? Or should we
I don't
do
like
that in the future?
I don't like owing people money. We've got the money, that money was provided to us, understanding that it would help us start a school. I don't think we are doing a disservice to our donors by using that money to start a school. I don't have a problem spending that to get us up and going. We may not want to deplete 100% of it, we don't want to keep some reserve in there, but I don't have a problem using those funds.
But it would also be with the understanding that even though this savings account would probably be drained down to zero in the credit union, that as donations came in, if we kept that account, that they would go into the credit union.
Correct.
And people, when they donate, can say, we want it to go specifically to a certain thing, right? Right? They can say, my donation, did Gallagher Ford's donation specify it had to be used for anything? No. Okay. So, but somebody could say, I'm donating, Nevada Gold Mines, or somebody may say, I'm gonna give you $1 million towards a building. Right, well, then that obviously has to go in that. For that, and that money would go into the Elko Federal Credit Union account
Correct.
as it currently stands.
And we would be responsible for making sure that that was used
Okay.
as the donor intended. And for something operational, like somebody says, here's $20,000 for, I don't know, new school uniforms or for new band instruments. At that point, we tell Brandon, here's $20,000 in addition to your budget, but you need to spend it on music stuff.
Exactly. You're not for that. I don't understand why, and I'm grateful to Las Vegas, but why do we have to do something? Why Las Vegas needs to have access for accountants and all of that?
So that's coming up next.
Oh, okay.
Right now, but we'll be talking to them because we have on here a contract agreement with them, so we'll discuss that with them. They've been advising us all along, so we're kind of still on that. So Hank, account access. All right, so we have Elko Federal Credit Union account. Who's going to have access and who's going to sign on that?
The treasurer should have access, somebody else on the board should have access, and I think Dr. Brown should have access.
So we need 2 people from the board, or just 2 people total.
I think we should have 2 people on the board. Just in case there's, something happens to one of us, right? It's not a bus factor of 1.
And currently, who's signing?
Dorothy, Hank, and Lisa.
Okay, so we have Dorothy, Hank, and Lisa, but not Hank.
No, Hank,
He's on there.
yeah,
Yes.
He's currently signing.
He's currently there.
So there's 3. So we need to remove 1 of those people as signers
Or just add Randall.
and add Brandolin.
Yeah, and I don't object to having 3, but I think at least 2, just so we don't have a bus factor of 1.
And I object to having too many board members. I don't think board members should be signing on, other than the treasurer and Brandolin. Is my feeling.
And maybe if we had Brandolin on there, then we still have 2 people on there. We have, if something happens to me, that those funds can still be accessed.
It should be the board president, the treasurer, and the school leader. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm not real comfortable with that, but
I'll come to.
because we're signing to purchase things, right? I mean, that's what the signature on those accounts is for.
We shouldn't
No,
be.
this is for the.
Not on the
This is
credit
for
union.
the credit union accounts.
So what are
Purchases
we
will come out there.
signing for then?
We'll sign once a year, once a month to take money out of the credit union and provide it. to
Fund the
transit
operations.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So we shouldn't be signing for purchases unless there's something,
Yeah, we're not writing checks.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe if Brent comes to us and says, hey, I need a van and it's not in the budget, then sure, we can sign for that maybe, but for anything that's in the budget, I don't think we shouldn't be touching those funds or signing on it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm wondering why we need so many people.
I'm currently a signer on there. It doesn't matter to me. You can take me off if that's too many.
Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Fernando, in your experience, you said it should be the treasurer and the board president.
And the board president.
Why is that?
Because when he's elected as president, we put our confidence on him. That's just, I trust him 100% when I casted my vote for consent. So that's why. Board treasurer, board president, the board treasurer happens to be absent for whatever reason, but there needs to be that transfer. Board president goes, and that's that.
Well, I just want to say that I'm with Lisa. I don't care if I'm signing on that account, but right now, all the monies that we get come to me. It's just the way it has been, right?
Yeah.
And so I deposit them, and takes one step out of Hank's day. Brandolyn gives stuff to me, helps her in that respect. So, I mean, but if you're gonna change that up, then it's gonna have to go directly to Hank or Joe.
Do you need to be a signer to deposit?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But I personally don't, I see that account,
Sure,
okay? Because it's under my social security number.
sure.
So that account is visible to me, so I see the donations, so I can check on that. Which I think, I don't care if it stays that way, but I don't want to be responsible for the money if I can't see what's going on.
Sure, okay, that makes
I,
sense.
it
Doesn't
makes
make any-
sense. I think it makes sense to have the offices of the treasurer and the secretary be on that account. They're elected offices to the board, there are officers, they're people, as you said, Fernando, like the chair, people who we have put into specific positions and who have roles within the organization that would require them to be more intimately knowledgeable and involved with that account than perhaps other board members.
And decisions on expenditures from that account are board decisions, not
Right.
individual decisions. Now, operations is Brandolyn's,
Right,
right? We don't have, so keep that one in mind. So now operations, the recommendation is Brandolyn, right? Only Brandolyn or Brandolyn and you?
well,
No,
when they
no,
wanted
no.
Ron,
Ron, that one's set. I think it's just the Elko County that we're concerned about.
I thought that Colleen didn't want to, Colleen, if you're hearing me,
Oh,
She's a
Colleen?
user. She's an authorized user on the Nevada State Bank account.
but not a signer.
She's not a signer.
Right.
But Cam in general has access to those funds, correct?
Ron Fick is a signer
Okay.
and Colleen is an authorized user. So yes, they have access to Nevada State Bank.
So let me just explain that, like, Colleen and I are both still working for Founders Classical Academy, right? Colleen has access to the checkbook. It's under lock and key. I don't have access to the checkbook. I only have access to sign. Like, I don't have access to only half the combination to the safe. So there are lots of things that are set in place to ensure that there's no fraud that goes on here, right? So there is, again, there's this important ease of getting to funds. If something happened with Brandolyn and things still had to be paid, that we could still go ahead and do transactions from the CAM end. That's the thing. Things happen when you're running a business, especially when you're running a big business, and you're not always going to be available to go ahead and do those things. People are on vacation, they're out of town, things like that. So the only time that I would ever get involved in signing anything is with the authorization of someone else. I'm not just going to start signing things. I don't, it's not the way things work. These are public funds. I'm certainly not going to prison over $1 million. I haven't went to prison over 13 or 14 million dollars. So I'm very, very careful about every step and every policy and process we have within our school and our network of transactions that we make, to make sure that my hands are just like Dorothy. I want to be as free as I can of any impropriety or anything that looks like impropriety.
okay, thanks, Ron. All right, so to move on here, do we have a motion for account access? Who's going to be accessing which accounts?
It's right now Lisa and the treasurer.
And with you.
And Brandolyn.
No, I need to be added.
So we're talking about Elko Federal Credit Union account.
It's on the screen. So right now, Dorothy, Hank, and Lisa are the current signers, and I need to be added. And Lisa has volunteered to remove herself, so it would be Dorothy, Hank, and Brandolyn. Might be a good motion to make.
And as the board, we're comfortable with the treasurer and the secretary having that responsibility.
We'll find out when we vote, I
I guess
guess. So we need a motion first and a second.
Okay, I move that we modify Elko Federal Credit Union account access such that the office of the treasurer Dr. Thurston, the Office of Secretary, Ms. Denninger, and the school leader, Dr. Thrown, will have access. Will be signers on that account.
And can you add in that we are removing Lisa Becker as a signer?
Yes, and as such, we'll be removing Lisa Becker to that account.
Okay, so that kind of capture it, Brandon? Okay. We have a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, Hank, we bypassed the financial report, but we need to move contract up for Ron and those guys. 9C, view and approve contract between us and CAM for January 2025 through June 2025. So we have that contract in here.
Yes, it's at the, towards the back of your current meeting tab. It's top of it, it says servicing agreement. It looks like what's on your screen, or on the screen.
Okay, so you want to tell us about that?
Are you asking me?
Ron or Brendan, whichever one.
Go ahead, Ron. I think it's best
Okay.
you do it.
So this Mr. Fick, for the record, so this servicing contract was put together by Ramir Hernandez, who is our board president and also the future board, well, is the board president of CAM Nevada. Just so you're aware, Mr. Ramirez will be terming out after 6 years on the board of Founders Classical Academy, and then on July 1st, he'll be solely the president of CAM Nevada. So the purpose of CAM Nevada is to go ahead and support schools, most specifically classical schools related to the Barney Charter School Initiative in Hillsdale K-12. The state is aware of that. State Public Charter School is aware of that. Also, the folks at Hillsdale are aware of that as well. That our goal is to try to help navigate this particular process of the financial and the organizational framework. There are so many ways that you can fail as a charter school, and I think that's evidenced by so many schools that do fail, especially in the first few years of their existence. And like a three-legged stool, if you consider the organizational framework, the financial framework, and the academic framework, the way in which you are assessed by the State Public Charter School Authority, if any of those legs fail, your school will be in notice of concern and then notice of breach, and then eventually closed. The kind of work that's done by a school leader, an academic leader, is specific, but the kind of work that's done in the financial and the organizational framework demands a certain amount of expertise and paratechnical knowledge on how to do that work. Schools have certainly tried to do it on their own. I can tell you, and I'll say for the record, because I don't think it's a great secret, that the people in Ely have even reached out to us and asked if we can help them out with their organizational and financial framework. So there are plenty of schools, even schools in Las Vegas, have reached out to us and asked us if we could help them. So we've got a strong record with the State Public Charter School Authority and knowing how to do this, because we've had such high ratings in those particular areas. And we're one of the few schools, charter schools, single site charter schools that were able to successfully navigate all three frameworks and turn a business 7 years ago that I took over that had about 17 bucks and notices of breach and concern to a business today that has about $3 million of cash on hand and is excellent organizational, excellent financial, and excellent academic work being done. So our goal was to go ahead and to reach out to you and to offer this opportunity to do this. You certainly are under no obligation to sign anything or to do it, you can do this on your own. I can tell you that I figured out how to do it on my own with the help of Charter School Management Corporation. Charter School Management Corporation did our back office for us for the last 7 years. The last contract we signed with them was a 5-year contract 5 years ago for $8,333 per month when we were a school of about 400 kids. So it's, and trust me, the prices went up since then. So what we're looking to do, if you all are interested, is to assist you in the areas of the financial framework, which is the more complicated framework of running all your transactions through chart of accounts and through Sage Intact, and then to all the way through audit. And then also, if you want that help to help you through the process of the 180 plus reports that are required by the state, then I'm sure that you and your principal may have some knowledge of, but these reports are pretty complicated at times. Sorry about that. So that's our kind of position, is we're here to help. There's certainly costs in getting that help, but dollar for dollar, we believe that this is a good deal. I wish I had this great of a deal 7.5 years ago when I took over Founders Classical Academy at a lot higher number than this, just for the financial framework. So if you have any questions about the contract or the scope of services, we're happy to answer those. Colleen can answer many questions about the financial part as well as our CPA, Andrew McBride, who will be your CPA as well. That'll be doing your reporting for your board meetings. And then Daniel and the organizational framework and getting Brandolin and your board up to speed on all these reports that have to be done. They cannot be late. They cannot be inaccurate. Every single site charter school is responsible for the same reports as Elko County School District or Clark County School District. So you are like a little district, and every report that's due to a major large district in the state of Nevada will be due from you as a single site charter. So what we're offering is that expertise to go ahead and keep the 3 legs of your stool firm, so your leader can do the academic job that you hired her to do, which is to lead a school and provide high quality classical education to kids there in your community.
Ron, this is Kim Paris. How are you able to offer these services for this amount of money when you had to pay your charter management company so much more?
Because we have $3 million. The reason we were able to make this transition and pull the reason we were able to pull our, if I'm answering the right question, the reason we were able to pull our 2 legs of the framework away from the school is because we have the means to do it. So it cost a lot of money to do a startup of a business, and Cam, Nevada is a business. And luckily, over the years, I think I've been a pretty good leader and a pretty good businessman when it came to running Founders. There's significant funds in there to go ahead and get something like this started.
Okay.
That's really all there is to it. This has been funded by Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas, all the startup costs of CAM. And all CAM really asks is that our primary focus is any other classical schools that's related to the Barney Charter School Initiative. And if we wanted to take on another client that was outside the portfolio of schools of Hillsdale K-12, then we had to get their approval.
Thank you.
Ron, so just on costs, $44.90 per month. This contract is just until June.
Yes.
Is that going to change per month come July?
We're not projecting a large change, and I can clarify that with Colleen here as well, a large change on that number. We've worked that number and kind of teased that number out. Although the number may be the same, the things that we're going to be working with Brandolin on are all of the processes to take a purchase and take it through the process of getting that all properly aligned with chart of accounts and properly positioned in the right places within Sage intact to go ahead and to have a successful audit with no findings that are negative. So you certainly want to be very cognizant of the dangers of having a bad audit, especially as a public entity or a public school. We've had strong audits. We're, again, happy to share our audit results with you from founders that we've done. We've worked with, just so you're aware, we left Charter School Management Corporation, but we've been working with them for the last year on this transition. So we didn't just go one day and say, oh, we're not interested in working with Charter School Management Corporation anymore. We spent a year. We paid them a half a year additional money just to go ahead and do shadow books to make sure we didn't make any mistakes. Everything we do, whether it's Colleen, myself, or Daniel, or Andrew, is always careful. It's always mindful that we cannot make a mistake. So we went out of our way to spend the money that was necessary to ensure that we have the skills to do the work. And we are confident that we have those skills.
Okay, and the other thing I saw in here is $50 an hour for various things. How much of that do you anticipate happening in
That
this first 6 months?
Yeah, that would not a lot. That would completely depend on the amount of things that Brandolyn would need. I mean, a lot of the things that are happening from the school right now. So I have two hats on right now, right? I'm executive director of CAM and I'm executive director and superintendent of Founders Classical Academy. I'm at two jobs at the same time. But I think what you'll find out is that if you just try to determine the amount of access that, and Brandon could probably speak to this, the amount of access she has to founders and to individuals who are willing to do work and to provide for her the information she needs by a simple pickup of the phone, and all the help that she's going to get with her banker and all the process. We went through the process of how we pay an invoice, for example, through purchase request with her last time she was in town. All of these things, all of this training, all of this knowledge, I'm not anticipating that we're going to charge you guys any more money because you're one of us as far as we're concerned. You're a Barney charter school. And everyone that's involved in this wants you to succeed. I mean, the last thing we want in Vegas is for you not to do well. And that's why we're here offering this and put together this back office. Ultimately, we would have done this back office with or without you because my board of Founders Classical Academy has recognized that having a school leader try to do academic, financial, and organizational framework, other than Ron, Daniel, and Colleen, and I've got like the A team of people, and trying to find those people to do that kind of work, it's pretty much impossible. And the reality is that Founders is such a big school, it has the ability to go ahead and pay a larger percentage of the bill for what you're getting. So they're paying a larger percentage of paying for the expertise, where you're only paying a smaller number because you have significantly less kids and then less transactions. You don't have 13 or $14 million worth of transactions.
Right. No, we appreciate everything you've done for us, Ron. So other questions by the board? Dorothy has.
I have just a couple of questions, Ron, and also one comment. I did have, Ramey asked me to have Katie McConnell, our legal counsel, look over this contract, which I did, and she was fine with it.
Okay.
But there are a couple of just typos in here that probably need to be corrected. And I'll just fire that back to Ramey tomorrow, if that's okay.
That
But
is
one thing,
fine.
okay, one thing I don't understand though is I've heard Brandolyn reference it earlier, and in this contract, it talks about the school banker. What is that? Or
Okay.
how does
So-
that,
Where is?
it's,
Yeah,
talks about it
All right.
off in the appendices, charter school
Sure.
banker.
Sure.
And
So all right, Dorothy, you should have, or Brandolyn should have a person who
Page
is
7.
assigned to be the banker. It is best that it is a person that is not Brandolyn, but another employee. And the
Okay.
reason is it's a means of protecting your
Maybe.
business. Like I told you before, Colleen was the banker in general of Founders Classical Academy. she has half the combination to the safe, I have the other half of the combination to the safe. I could have all the combination to the safe, but Ron Fick doesn't do that. She has the check stock, she has the key, I have the signature, right? So nobody can do anything without the other person knowing it. So it's just a means of providing you additional safeguards that are in place. And certainly insurance companies want to know that, what safeguards you have in place to ensure that there's not internal fraud within your organization. So a banker, and that might be your registrar / banker that does that particular kind of work, but there has to be that relationship. Like for years, Colleen and I have had a relationship. I don't trust Colleen Thomas, and Colleen Thomas doesn't trust me. That's the relationship we're always going to have, and that's why we have good sound books, because I watch every move that she makes, and she watches every move that I make, and reports that any of those any improprieties back to the board. So it's those
Okay,
same
so
kind
this
of
is
things
just-
you want to put in place.
This is just an additional checks and balance, in other words, and it's an employee that is yet to be determined that's at the school. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, I get it.
Okay, so there weren't any other just minor changes?
Yeah, I mean, we need to change the address. It still shows the post office box.
Okay.
There's just some verbiage right here. There's a will and a be. I'll
Okay.
just I'll just send that to the Whammy. But, and I didn't have anything else but those two things.
Lisa, did you have anything on it? On the
Oh.
contract?
I just had one question, that I guess maybe Dorothy, you can answer. You said Katie looked at this. That was, I was gonna ask if she did in the past when she has looked at agreements for us, she has recommended, a reciprocal, some sort of reciprocal indemnity clause so that we are also protected, but she didn't in this case.
No, and she didn't in the bylaws either, Lise. And I specifically asked her that.
Okay.
Okay.
That was it. Thanks.
Hank, you have anything?
No.
Okay. Fernando? I don't know if we answered your question about why we have a group. Ron tried to explain it.
We are, I understand what Las Vegas is saying, but we are a very unique community, extremely given. We build things here that other places struggle to build in years. So our model, even though it should happen, should be grown. We should be providing the expertise that each board member has on certain things. If I understood correctly, we're gonna pay Las Vegas $5,000 a month, give and take, to tell us what to do. And that they have not been here. They don't understand. I heard Greg said, the Elko Federal Credit Union, it is imperative that they continue. They're local, and inconvenience for anybody. It is the technology age. You can click. I can click. My daughter does my finances, and she lives in Maine. She clicks a button and does everything for me. So I want to explore the possibilities, and I know we're short of time, that we're spending $5,000 for an advice that perhaps we could do ourselves. That's all I said. I'm not certain, I'm not very familiar with the Charter School Management Corporation. But this is our dream. And this is what we should make that reality ourselves. And we want the advice, but I just want to have a couple and to the next meeting to absorb this. Are we voting on this or anything like that?
I think one thing that would be, that would help this local versus is that people in Elko understand that this classical school movement, we want it to become statewide, that there's other communities that are interested in it. And that we're a part of that and we want to help facilitate that growth. So it's not just Elko County charter, classical charter, it's that we want it to become part of a statewide movement.
And Fernando, if I can offer just a little bit of background, when, not that it matters, but if the founding board, we were looked at these contracts with Founders Academy and the idea of they're doing our back office. And it's something totally different than the credit union. I mean, it's actually the framework, the financial framework for the school that allows the school leader to, like Ron said, focus on academics. And Mark and Kim had started the EIAA school, and Mark was the accountant and tried to do all of that filing and reporting for the SPCSA. And his take on it was that this amount of money to Cam, Nevada is a bargain. And that it's absolutely great that they're doing this for us. So that's just a little bit of that background.
Yeah, I think one of the things, you talked about for them giving us advice. They can give us advice and we make our own decisions. The main thing is they're doing the work, that we don't have people to do the work, which is payroll, all the purchasing, all of that stuff that the state paying the bills, all the state SPCSA, everything has to be, kind of under their regulations. Some charter schools, when they started, like before Ron, they had their own people. I know Oasis Academy, their main person was a CFO. Their administrator was half-time. Their CFO was full-time. And that's all, and he's my nephew, so that's how I know it. And that's all he did, is this job that these guys are doing. And but they couldn't afford to pay a full-time administrator because of that.
Sure.
So this at $53,000 a year, plus there's in that contract there was $2,160 twice a year for Sage. So you're looking at less than $60,000 a year. I don't know if we can hire a person for $60,000 a year. And like you said, the reporting
Experience. It's the experience that they have.
Right. The reporting portion of it is,
Yeah.
even though we're a tiny school, you still have to do all the same stuff. The school district has a whole department of people that has to do that work. So that's kind of, I don't know if that helps. But we still make the decisions, right? They give us advice, but we decide as a board, not them.
Right, and our goal, to Fernando, I think you have an excellent point. Our goal is to build our own capacity. So into the future, perhaps we don't have to have this type of support. But right now, like myself and Amber, we cannot do everything that has to be done. It's impossible. I mean, I'm already swamped with Epicenter and we haven't even started doing the reporting, but just tracking these board meetings is challenging in itself. So I think you're absolutely right. We always want to be thinking that we're building our capacity, but we have the gift of, I like to think of these founders as like our big sister. Like our big sister is going to hold our hand and show us how to do it. And then at some point we will go out on our own perhaps.
Or maybe not.
Or not. We will decide as we go. But for now, their expertise is invaluable. They're going to save us a lot of time and money and mistakes like Ron is saying.
And this contract's for 6 months. So
Yeah, this one's for 6, yeah. And you can reevaluate it at whatever point you want to. Again, there's no obligation here to do anything more than you all want to do. I just think that when it comes to trying to do a startup, especially for the first couple of years, you're going to need the help. And then past the 2 years, you're not going to want to do this work. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. When I decided to go ahead and do this, I went out and hired somebody to do the job I always wanted to do, and that was to be a principal of a classical school. So I went ahead and I went to the back office, and that's what I've done, and worked in this organizational and financial framework. We've hired a new head of school. James Kuzma was an academic manager in the Clark County School District at the highest levels. He said, "This is crazy amount of work. This is impossible." He was an academic manager in the Clark County School District and doesn't understand this stuff. It is far more complicated than it looks, and it does demand just a specific amount of knowledge. I just think that we're lucky. I'm lucky to have Daniel, Andrew, Colleen there, and we've worked together for so many years together. We know how to do this work. And we've always been those kind of people. And I fully respect the small town. Colleen's small town. She's from Indian Springs, right? She's about as small town as you get out here, right? I moved to Las Vegas in 1973 when it still was a small town from Yucca Valley, California, which is another small town. So I get the whole small town thing and trying to keep things local. We want to see ourselves as people that I'm not trying to sell you something like some business, because frankly, I don't have to sell you anything. If you don't want to do it, it's fine. I'm just saying I want to help you guys out. We want to help you guys out. We do not want to make a huge sum of money. It's a nonprofit. CAM's a nonprofit. It's a not-for-profit organization. This isn't some president making money or Ron's going to make more money or whatever. That is not what this is about. This is about helping out schools. Because trust me, you can call the State Public Charter School Authority, whether it's Melissa McAdin or previously Rebecca Fiden, and they will tell you this work is hard. This work is complicated, but for some strange reason, Founders was able to navigate it over the last 7 years successfully, very successfully. And when we asked for this opportunity from the State Public Charter School Authority to go forward with doing this, and from Hillsdale, both of them gave us their positive nod that they said they believe that we could do it and we could go ahead and exercise those particular responsibilities.
Okay, thanks, Ron. So the main thing is I want to know what your recommendation is, Randall, so everybody knows on the contract.
I recommend we accept the contract.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the contract the service agreement with CAM Nevada for January 25 through June 25.
With your
Oh, with my edits to the, yeah.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed?
Can I do that?
Okay, we have one abstention. I vote aye for the record. Motion passes. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you so much. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you,
Okay,
Cam.
appreciate it.
Nevada. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to absorb on that one. I mean,
Sorry?
there's a lot to absorb on the budget and what they're
It's
doing.
just my background.
Yeah,
You know, my background is when we open Boys and Girls Clubs, we have zero money.
yeah.
And we, like, I listening to the purchasing and that we have to think about the surplus army depots. I mean, you get furniture for schools that look better than new stuff that you buy. There is one in Salt Lake City. We just give them a call. They provide everything for schools to be done. They exclude the school in Monterey, California. The desk that they bought last year, are not good enough for the students today. So we put them on surplus, and I got buses in San Antonio for the Boys and Girls for $10. School buses.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get there on that too, so. Anybody opposed to taking a break?
I was gonna suggest maybe a quick break.
Okay, so you can stop the recording. So we're gonna take a break, Lisa, for 10 minutes.
Okay. And I brought some snacks, popcorn, you can pop in the microwave. There's some. Amber brought
Okay, so we are back. we are gonna table number 5, financial A. Mr. Thurston would like to do that once a month, not twice. The only thing I want to say on that is for financial is we do need a fundraising committee. And I don't have that as an agendized item. But we do need to add that to the next
Okay,
agenda, I guess, and discuss it at that point.
okay.
And
I
so
got
be
it.
thinking about who would like to participate in that at that time. So we'll just add that to the next agenda. Okay, item number 6, school leader report.
Okay, so the page is in your folder under current meeting. Lots happened in the last 2 weeks, so let's start at the top. Enrollment. We had a total of 15 people attend the school information sessions, which doesn't sound like very many, but the conversations that we had with those people were very good. And so I think that's a really good thing.
Gwendolyn,
Yeah.
the people that came, were they brand new to this? Or had they come before? Were they familiar with what was going on? Just out of curiosity.
A mixture. Some were brand new, some had filled out the intent. 2 were teachers that wanted to come teach for us. One who wants to be our instructional aide, so it's kind of a mix.
Okay,
Also, not just all parents.
Not just all parents.
Okay.
Mhm.
good.
Good. And I know, I think I told you that my my grandson is in the early childhood at Great Basin College.
Yeah.
And my son told me, because a lot of his friends are in there and a lot of them are interested. And I don't know if we have flyers there about the meetings and things, but he said most of them are pursuing private or charter. And that could be with whatever preschools are around. So whatever specific targeting we do with that group, and then the homeschool groups, because I think that's our market, I guess.
Right, so in January, Amber and I will sit down and work out our marketing scheme for the 3 months that the enrollment or the application period is open. Because remember, we have until March 21st, so it doesn't all happen on January 6th.
Right. Right.
So and I think now is not the time to be talking about school registration because we're all thinking about Christmas and New Year's. So
Yeah.
come January 6th, Amber and I will map out exactly what we're going to do every week to really get into the communities. Maybe we can go to the school, give a little presentation, something, I don't know. But yeah, January through March, we'll be doing heavy marketing.
Because it could all hit at once, or it could be
Right.
good. Now the application is just paper,
No, so the application is the next bullet. The application is on the website.
but they can fill it in on the website.
It's all
So it's
electronic.
not just a download and print out.
They do it on the computer.
Perfect.
It'll be available in Spanish and English, and Fernando is going to review that we have the correct Spanish. Because we just translated it using the tools that we have. So yes, it's all done electronically, and Amber and I will have, so we're working on the emails to send out on January 5th to start kicking this off. And then on January 6th, we're planning on having computers here and being open for people to come if they need help on the computer, but it's super simple. I mean, it's like super simple. So the only issue would be if you don't have access at all. So we'll be here and we'll publicize that. And then we'll set certain dates through that January, February, March, where we're here at certain times for people to come in and fill out the application.
And do you need board members here or other people here, or what?
On the
You want
6th?
us here or what? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about it here probably tomorrow, but we want it to be like a fun event, or like celebrate that this is a big point in the school, is that we're open for application. So yeah, it'll be 4:30 to 6 here on the 6th.
Okay.
That's what we know. So yep, that's gearing up, and if you want to see the application, I can send you the link so you can just see. But we've tested it, and what happens is, so the families fill it out and then they push submit, and then an email comes into my email box, into Amber's email box, and it comes in as a PDF. And so I'll get to this later, but we have a copier coming. So we'll print it off and then all the applications go into a binder and that's how we start tracking all the applications. So we have a process for that.
You can't just download it as data.
It'll ultimately, yes, we have the spreadsheet will come in as well. But we have to have both.
Duplicating your,
Yeah, but we have to have both. We still have to have a paper copy for auditing.
okay.
So we'll have both. Yep.
Good.
So that's getting real. It's gonna come soon. With regard to personnel, so we confirmed our attendance at the classical job fair on January 30th, 2025. I'll be recruiting for 5 classroom teachers, 1 special education teacher. We'll be recruiting for an instructional assistant here, more local, but we already have 1 person who's applied. And Cam is working on Amber's contract, and then we'll discuss my contract. So hopefully January we'll switch over to contract to employees. Any questions with personnel?
No.
So academics, you'll see later, I've been working on the school calendar and the daily schedules so that we can answer those questions as parents are asking us during the application phase. We've been reviewing the curriculum and strategizing our purchases, but again, we won't purchase anything until we have that tax exempt so that we're not paying sales tax. We have to watch every penny, so we don't want to wait to spend it on taxes.
And
Oh,
excuse
yeah,
me,
go ahead.
when you make purchases like for furniture, I think I remember you saying that there were specific things that Hillsdale requires in the classroom, right? Specific types of furniture?
Mm-hmm. So specific, I would say it's a specific look that they expect in the classroom.
Okay.
Then the specific furniture comes from the recommendation from Founders because they have mastered the look that Hillsdale wants.
Okay.
So when Hillsdale comes to Founders, they're like checking the box, like, yep, this is what we want our classrooms to look like.
Okay.
So we will mimic that
Mhm.
because we know it works.
Right.
And it's very specific. Classrooms will look very, very different. There's no clutter. There's not all posters and lots of colors. It's very calm. It's very academic. It's very different than what a typical classroom looks like.
Yeah, the things on the wall, right? What the kids are looking at every day. Not
Very
just
specific.
desks, right? It's
It's all of it. Yeah. The certain maps, the certain charts. Yeah. Yeah, so all that it's not that we have to do it that way, but it's one of those, like, that's what Hillsdale is looking for. And if our goal is to become a member school in 2 years' time, then we might as well start behaving like a member school now,
Right.
Yeah,
right? Let's not wait. And then, I can't wait to tell you, but I'll just tell you, we're coordinating training for 2025, but there's more to that story, and I'll tell you that in just a minute. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about our calendar, but bottom line is we're already thinking of how we're going to get these teachers trained. So that's the academic piece. State assessment, nothing to report yet. Follow-up issues, the building I put in here. So I've talked to Stephen multiple times and we've got a plan. In January, our administrative offices will be ready to populate. They're going to put a new floor and then paint those. At that point, we'll move the furniture from the 2 classrooms into the middle of this, where I'm calling it the Great Hall. And part of that furniture we'll put together because that will become Amber's and I's furniture. So we will have functional offices hopefully by the end of January. And then the rest of the school, will continue working to get that done. And we're looking about April, by no later than April. Stephen has had other priorities in his other buildings. That's why he hasn't been spending a lot of time here, but it's in January, the school becomes his priority. The big news, we got our phone number today. I called Dorothy. She was the first call I made.
I saw on Facebook that we had a number.
So 860-4300.
860.
775.
775, yep.
4300.
Yeah, doesn't that look like the real life?
That's a
phone?
line only?
What's that?
This is a land.
Landline.
Yep, it's a landline.
That's-
And we have 3 lines coming in right now. We have a front desk line, we have a school leader line, and a registrar line.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the physical phones are at our houses right now because we don't want them to get dusty and lost in the chaos, but yes.
We don't have internet.
We don't have internet coming through here, but we wouldn't leave them here anyway, right now. So, yeah, so that's exciting. I feel like we're real, like we have a phone number.
Can we get internet for free?
No,
No.
well, not yet,
Not yet.
unless you have, yeah, maybe.
When we will be eligible for E-rate, it's called, but it's a federal program. I think we have, I don't know if we have to be in operation for a
A
year,
year, 1 year.
and then we qualify for E-rate, and that pays for internet and
Yes.
other services.
I think Frontier had an internet for nonprofits for free, but I don't know if they still do or not.
Okay, we can look into it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's,
Right now we have the SBC com. So that takes us to the wireless capability. So Daniel, who is on the phone, he's part of CAM. That's part of what they're helping us with is the networking for the building. So the phone guy and Daniel are working together to get the accurate wireless capabilities that will handle all that we need when we fire up for testing and all that sort of. So that's in the works. Should be coming. We have a copier's contract through Alliance coming. It's been ordered and that should be coming in January. And so that'll be good because we'll have the capability to do copies and print and all that. So the next page, correspondence. So this is why I was getting excited about the training, is because Ben Payne and I had a fantastic conversation. It's super encouraging. And he introduced me to some other West Coast classical academies. So I have talked to the school leaders at Cheyenne Classical Academy in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Whitmore Academy in Florence, Oregon. And Cheyenne has opened this year, but they are in desperate need of support and help. And that's what Ron was alluding to. Like, they have no support, and they are, that school leader, she is so excited that we can help her, which I think is fun. Because we're also very much learning. And then Whitmore Academy will open with us at the same time as us. So we're, the 3 of us, Whitmore, Cheyenne, and myself, are trying to coordinate training of our teachers in coordination with Founders. The challenge here now is what we're recognizing. Founders is a little bit advanced, and so they don't necessarily need the same beginning training, but they're willing to allow us to connect in as much training, and then we'll have access to their trainers. So anyway, we're kind of coordinating what this is going to look like and how we're going to maximize our dollars and get the best training for our teachers, because they're in the same boat of like Cheyenne only has 1 first grade, 1 second grade, and we know that that's not how we really maximize our capabilities, and is when we don't have anyone to talk to. So anyway, I was super excited, and we're creating this little West Coast, I was calling it the West Coast Classical Consortium. Like, we're gonna work together, because we're kind of out on our own here, like relative to the East Coast, where they have all, a lot more. So, and we're all in the same boat. So that's exciting. So stay tuned. I'll tell you more as I learn more. Department of Public Safety, the good news is our fingerprinting account is in the works. I've been learning a lot about Department of Public Safety. I've taken the training. I have to send some letters so that we get our numbers and all these sorts of things, but we're actively in that process now. So in the new year, you guys will be able to get your fingerprints. So we're getting there. SPCSA training begins in January. So I have monthly trainings that I have to do. And then you all as the board have 2 required trainings, January 9th and January 22nd from 3 to 4. And we can do those here, or you'll be able to access them from Zoom. So if you don't want to come here, you don't necessarily have to. But make sure you have those dates on the calendar because that will be 2 trainings that you are required to attend.
January
9th
9th.
and 22nd,
From 3 to 4.
from 3 to 4. And, I sent an email along with that board training. One of our required pre-opening tasks is that you all need to sign a disclosure form. And I've sent that to you in your email. So if you can check, look in your email, print that off, fill it out, sign it, and bring it back to me, or I can come pick it up, or we'll figure out how to get it back to me. It's due January 15th, but I need it before then so I can upload it. And we'll talk about our next meeting and how we're gonna coordinate all that, but
And
that's.
you send that already, right?
You
I
sent that
I
already?
sent it, yeah, probably this
Right.
evening. I think
Oh,
just
okay,
before the
okay, I
meeting.
didn't see it. I was,
Yeah, you probably haven't seen it yet.
okay.
And then if you have a teacher licensure, you have to attach that and a resume, but I have everybody's resume in the charter application except for Fernando, so I just need a
Oh.
resume. But the rest of you I have, unless you want me to update it, then send me an update one. But if you're good with whatever was in the charter application, I've already got that, so I can use that. But I'll talk to each one of you individually when we come back from
Do
break.
you have teacher license still?
It's a retired teacher's license.
Still works.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I just had to renew mine, and yeah, they don't make you do any new classes or anything.
Okay, good. 'Cause
It's good through like 2035 now. I had to get fingerprinted. That's
when
how,
did you get it renewed?
I just got it.
Did they give you a notification that it was? Okay.
No, yeah, I did get a notification that it was done. So
Okay.
you can look it up.
Yeah.
online.
Okay,
But then, yeah,
okay.
So yeah, I'll track that and be making sure we get that done by early January. The other 2 things I didn't put on here, I thought of later. From the previous meeting, you had asked me to send the teacher compensation plan to SPCA, and I did, and they gave us a thumbs up, so we're good to go with that. Yeah, I know, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I also sent them the application questions and they gave us a thumbs up. So I just wanted to let you guys know that they are aware of both of those things that we're doing. And they're saying that's fine. They're on board. That's super exciting.
What was
Okay.
it with the application question, Randall, and I forget?
Remember in our enrollment, application, admission and enrollment policy, we had questions regarding the lottery and then there were tickets with
Demographics.
English learners and how we do all that. So we got that clarified. And then we wrote the application to meet what we thought they said, and they confirmed that we did it correctly. So yeah, we're good to go there. So, I think that's it. Did you have any questions for the school leader with regard to that?
Nope.
Awesome. It's a big month, so it's good 2 weeks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah. Number 7, committee reports, bylaw and procedure committee. And that's Lisa.
Yeah, I can do that. Just a brief report from our group. We did get together, yesterday and started, updated the draft of the policy and procedures manual for the discussion, at our last board meeting. That was included in the attachments for all of you for this board meeting. What we did is cleaned up the 2 sections that were there, governing body and, officers, which are a bit repetitive of what's in the bylaws, but informational for the board as far as the manual goes. In addition to that, we pulled together a list of possible additions that needed to be included in this manual before it can be reviewed and finalized. That list is at the bottom of that document. And these are, I looked at recommendations from Hillsdale K-12 on their policies. I looked at some other charter school board policy manuals. I looked at recommendations for nonprofit board charter policies just to kind of see what could be missing in here. What needs to be included are a few things that are already created. We should put the code of conduct in here. We should put the conflict of interest policy in here. Some things that we already have so that everything's in one document rather than having all these, individual floating policies. But then there are some things that are missing. And so I was hoping the board could look at this list and, if I could get your thoughts on if any of the things on this list shouldn't be included, or if you have questions about what they are. Obviously, it's a long list and it's gonna take some work to pull together this many additional policies in order to finalize, this document. So we may want to prioritize some of them. I think some of them can be very short. They can just be statements. But we absolutely have to start working on some financial oversight policies. That's the one that I think is really missing from this manual. And that's going to require some further discussion and thought based on, a lot of the things that we've been talking about today.
Good. So are you recommending that we approve this at this point, or this is kind of just a report of where you're at?
This is just a report of where we're at. I don't think we
Okay.
can't approve it yet because there are so many missing policies. And again, I think that not all of these are critical at this juncture, but it means that we will over time need to probably grow the policy manual and create some additional policies. But obviously we've had a lot of discussions around financial controls and oversight and fundraising. And so I think that policies need to be developed around that to be included in this manual. In addition, I think that is the priority. And then second, we don't have anything around record keeping and public records. And that's something that's been consistent across all of the other manuals that I've looked at. And again, that doesn't need to be a lengthy policy, but it should be included in our manual.
And it seems like some of these are defined in NRS or NAC for boards, so we can just reference those.
Yep, and I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we're good.
I think we can definitely do that again. If some of them may not take very much time. We had talked last time about dress code, if that was something that we wanted to include. So some of them would require discussion and some of them, yeah, we can just probably pull from somewhere else.
Okay, anybody have questions for Lisa?
So Lisa, I appreciate, thank you for the work you've done so far. I can request an extension from SPCA because this is supposed to be done January 15th, but I don't think it will. That's not realistic. And in our conversation with SPCA, that's not a big deal. We just need to communicate to them what we're up to and we can show them that we're actively working on it. So what's a realistic deadline should I request from SPCSA?
I think we can be flexible. If you can have a conversation with them and feel them out, it'd be great if we could get an extra month on it in order to do it right the first time. If they think that mid-February is too late, then perhaps what we can do is see what their thoughts are or what needs to be included in the manual, like what's their best practices list recommendation. And if it's a lot shorter than this, we could have it done by the end of January.
Okay, I'll communicate and let you know.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your work on that. That's a lot. That's a big project.
It is big.
Okay. All right, moving on to number 8, old business, school logo.
Okay, back to the logo. We'll look up so you guys can see while we talk about it. Oh, is that one? Oh, it is. Okay, so I requested feedback, I didn't get a ton, but what I got was, the circle, I think we're okay with the circle, the people that did respond tend to like the B option better, having the star demarcate the community. And then of course that would change over time, as we add. There needs to be some fine tuning to the spacing of the letters, like Nevada's maybe a little spread out, and I think we can work with PNCC to fine tune the letters inside of the circle and balance all of that. Some people liked the mountains on the inside, so I think we're just back to that, like it's a preference of simpler with the mountains. Again, we need to get this done so that come January 6th, we can have this and it can be our logo for the next X time, extended time period. So I think if we could come to an agreement of the like A or B, and then I'll work with PNCC to fine tune it and make it the best it can possibly be inside that general concept. Then we'll be in a good place where we can move forward. Again, there'll be the option to have the Nevada Classical Academy with the circle, and sometimes it would be just the circle. So and for what the appropriate logo will be used for the appropriate thing, and that's part of the branding that we will create so that we know when are we using just the circle, when do we have the Classical Academy with it, the text with it, all that kind of stuff. So that's not your concern right now. The branding will happen after we get this, and we'll set all of that. We'll set the colors. We'll make sure we always have the same color, this because we'll have the codes and that sort of thing. So thoughts, questions, where are we at on this?
Which one do you like?
I like B. I think it's cleaner. I think like Fernando, it's simpler. It's not like super fancy, but like think of Nike, like so simple, right? So I like it. I think it's kind of cool, and I think there's a lot of, personally, one thing I'm always wanting people is to take pride in that they are from Nevada and from their town, and I think I like that because their town is highlighted, like we know exactly where they are, and especially being rural, like most people don't know where El Dorado is. They think we're Las Vegas or Reno, so I think it's cool if we're, like Amy had made the comment, if we're out and about outside of Nevada, we want people to know we're from Nevada. And I think this is cool because it shows we're not Vegas or Reno. We're in an unusual spot. So I like B. I would vote for B if I got a vote.
Lisa, what's your thought?
I gave feedback to Brandon rather than really a vote, but I think visually the mountain one is more interesting to look at. I think it would strike people more, but as far as the idea of it, I like the Nevada one. I just feel like it's missing just a little something to make it pop. And I don't know, I think there's something about the negative space between the Nevada and the circle that they just don't quite fit together. I think if we could make the Nevada one pop, then I would really like it. And I gave some additional feedback about balance and space between the letters and stuff, just trying to make it feel a little bit different. So yeah, it's kind of a tough one.
Okay, Dorothy, any?
I agreed with Lisa in that I liked the mountains just because it visually I thought was cool looking, but I see the argument for the state and the star and our location on the logo. So I'm good with either way. Don't think I have a.
Jim, any preference?
I like B, but I'm wondering if there's any way you could superimpose those mountains anywhere. Yeah, either in the state of Nevada, or like Lisa was saying, that negative space around could maybe, or just take that state of Nevada and make it really small and superimpose it into the space below the mountains in letter A, but I would vote for B.
Fernando,
Either.
either one.
But what I hear you saying, Brandon, is you'd like a decision from this board.
Yeah,
So would it be possible to make a motion for B with the Kim's suggestions or your ideas about somehow incorporating the mountains, or how does that work?
Yeah, I wonder what making it pop means, Lisa, because I don't know what that would be.
I've spent, oh, go ahead, Brenda.
no, go ahead, no, you go.
Good.
I was just gonna say, I've spent some time thinking about it and even talking to some other folks. And I'm not, that didn't give me a really great answer, but different things like, yes, is there a way to, you know, put a mountain line in there, or is there some way to change the size of the Nevada? Maybe it needs to be bigger, or maybe it needs to be like, maybe the Nevada should be like have a shadow, you know, like a double outline or something. I'm just afraid it's gonna get lost in the whole thing. I wish that we could, you know, put the Nevada, the sagebrush around the sides of the state or something like that, which I know we went away from a while ago for a variety of reasons. But I've thought about, like, could we try the book as a backdrop, the open book, or the mountains as a backdrop or something, to just try to make it, to try to somehow seat that Nevada inside of that circle. So it needs some other additional design element in order to connect it a little bit, but I don't know what it is. It's hard to know without, you know, sitting down with the designer and just trying a bunch of different things. I was even wondering about just a bigger star centered in the circle. The outline of the star you can just see poking out behind the Nevada. And then the Nevada is on top, and then the little star there. I've had a lot of different thoughts in my head, but none of them that are undoubtedly the way to fix it.
Lisa, could you make the little state in Nevada and the star, could you put that just right, make it a little bit smaller and put it on top of the mountains? Just in the middle of that?
A dark space.
Yeah, well, or just, yeah.
You could definitely try that. I think what you'll find is that the Nevada has to sit in the middle of the center of the circle is where the Nevada has to sit. So you'd have to,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to see that much of the mountains behind it. You know what I mean? Because it would be kind of right at the tip point of that top mountain. So you'd have to adjust that, and you'd have to simplify the mountains. It would be a lot going on to have all of these little mountain
Things, yeah.
bits, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on paper. That circle, I mean, right on this paper is pretty large. And typically it's going to be smaller than that on a letterhead, I would think.
Would it be this size? Smaller?
Probably. Is that going to make it too busy when we shrink it down a little bit? So that's what.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem, is if we want to keep it simple, we can't add anything too much.
Right.
I wonder if we did the gray, if the gray was navy around the state, instead of a navy outline, maybe it's just a white state on a navy background. And then the Nevada will really pop instead of I think part of it is there isn't a lot of contrast between the state and the background, between the white and the gray. And so we're relying really heavily on this little tiny outline, this very thin navy outline, to tell that story.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Just make that background navy blue and the white state.
that might be enough to make it pop, to make it feel like something.
Is there a marketing reason or I don't understand all that. Just, I mean, we're saying below it, Nevada Classical Academy Elko, but then we also have it in that circle. So we have it twice. And that, to me, that's what makes it kind of too busy. I mean, we're already saying it where people can read it. Does it need to be in the logo portion? Or because we're only going to maybe be using the circle for some things?
Yeah, I like it in the circle and I'd get rid of it at below the,
If you could read it, that's what I mean. If it's small,
oh,
does that, because it's like I said, this here on paper, when you make a letterhead, it's going to be that big. And how are you going to read that within that without the text?
I think that was part of the thought about why we did this. If you include it in there, and we found some other classical schools that do exactly this, that have the name in the circle and then also have it available to use in a full logo with the icon, so the circle, and then the text as well. Where if it gets really small, like for a shirt or something, you could still use the text so that people could identify this as Nevada Classical Academy Elko. In certain applications, you wouldn't necessarily have to use the Nevada Classical Academy secondary text. You could just have that logo icon, which is that one down below where you just have the Elko and no other font text outside of the circle. You could use them for different applications. Let's say like a big sign on the side of the building. You'd want to have the logo icon, but you'd also want to have the text to the side, so somebody driving by who doesn't recognize the brand will be able to read it and see who it is. But then if you had, say, coffee mugs that you were giving to your employees, or you didn't have a lot of space on your name badges, on your school badges, you could just use that icon, the logo icon circle, and identify it as the organization without requiring the space for the additional text.
Lisa, I colored in the background. I just took my pen and colored in the background on that logo.
How does it look?
It looks, I really
It really
like it.
jumps out.
It really pops.
The Nevada jumps
yeah, it
out.
looks, yeah. Can you see it, Lise?
I can't see it, no.
Binder, and I'll put it right in front of the camera.
It looks,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at that.
That
I
looks
think,
good.
I think that's a big difference.
We've got Kim to do it. Look at you.
Yeah.
so why don't we go with that?
Okay. I'll send it out, so maybe we can take a motion to accept it with the navy background, and then I'll send it out, and if it's absolutely horrible and we are like, this is a terrible idea, we can rescind it, but I think it's gonna be fine.
So right now, option B with a darkened background around the Nevada. That's blue, right? It's our whatever our blue color
Navy.
is. Okay, and then the words are in green.
The white, but the.
White, but it's a green, and that's that same green that's on the wall over here. I mean, so that's all school colors.
Yeah, it'll all be balanced, and then we'll balance it, I'll get it perfected up a little bit better. There just needs to be some perfection.
And not to add anything else, but Brandolyn, since you're the one in there doing this work with Janelle, if you don't love it, maybe try a blue state with like a white Nevada, like try a couple of inverse options. I think it's gonna look good, but if you're in there and you're not sure, she could try it both ways and see if the dark pop in the middle is better or the white pop in the middle.
Yeah, yep. Okay.
Right, in any opposition to that, or so we're just giving you authority to just move forward with that as you like.
Thank you. Do you guys need a motion and vote? Or-
I don't think so.
Okay.
You can move on with that.
Thank you all. Appreciate that.
Okay, review employee handbook. That's kind of what we went through. Are we doing?
Yeah, so Lisa provided written comments. She had some good questions, so I'll follow up on those questions. I guess if there's any, I know it's a huge, long document, but if you have any edits, maybe get them to me by Friday. We'll put a deadline on it, and then I'll, bring it for final.
And that's in the shared drive.
Yes.
Okay.
And I sent it to you all as well. So it's in your email as well.
And I know I marked up some stuff. Did you get?
Yeah, if you're marking it up, actually, I think it's in the Dropbox. Let me right this second, I'll dump it, put it up into the shared drive, that the OneDrive. We're learning that works a lot better for commenting, right? So let me do that. I think it might be there, but let me just copy it.
Brandon, I was looking at the number 8, just, and it kind of is referable back to our discussion about the accounts. And rather than, my suggestion would be, as well as manage all school-related bank accounts, to put designated school-related bank accounts. Number 8, second page,
Yeah.
On
your contract.
oh.
Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's, okay. So let me-
What was that one? That's contract with.
That's Brandolin's contract.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was, weren't we on 9? Oh, employee, I see.
We're still.
We're still on 8. Oh, okay, I got it.
I'm not sure why it's in there. I'll get it in there. But so comments on employee handbooks by Friday. This Friday. That would be awesome. Friday at 5 p.m. Friday at 5 p.m. and it's in your email, or I will get this in the link and I'll send you a link and you can put your comments right into the document. So that's all we need to do for that, I think, Joe.
Okay. All right, any other thing on that? Number 9, new business, school leader employment contract. Okay, so everybody should have that.
Do you want me to leave?
Hmm?
Do you want me to leave the room or?
No,
No,
All right.
no, so part of it is you're supposed to help create your contract. I read that somewhere, and so I threw together some stuff there. Brandlin added some things. I asked her to kind of build it similar to what the teachers have, you know, what we were going with theirs, where we have the multiple bands. And as they improve and increase experience and show improvement in student achievement and those things, that you know is reflected not only in the evaluation but also in the pay. And there was an article out just yesterday about that and how most charter schools show success because they base a lot of it on student achievement and school improvement. And that's one of the building things of it. So, and it's a lot to digest. And there's some key things in here that I want you to look at. But I also feel that I started looking at NRS, and there's some statutes in that I want to make sure we're clear on. So I don't know if we will be able to completely approve this today. We might be able to, but.
So what, just as an example of an NRS statute that you said you're looking into?
There's things, and some of it's teachers, not administrative, and so I'm kind of confused on that because I couldn't find exactly because she's more of a superintendent, which is contracted versus a school administrator is generally, they have a probationary period, just like teachers have a probationary period. So they're evaluated more often during the probationary period. Same with the teacher contracts and things. We don't have, I don't think we have anything in those pay bands in the evaluation steps that, because when I was reading NRS 391 something today, it specifies 2 observations per evaluation. They have to have 3 of those in their probationary year. And I haven't asked SPCSA yet if that is a requirement for a charter school.
I don't think it is, because it's not under, because the charter is 388.
Right, and I haven't read through it, so I didn't get to that. I didn't get that far. But I want to make sure we're following what we, the language in there that we have to have. And then it seems to me that when somebody moves from a public school to another public school, which this is, that their status doesn't change. So if they're not a probationary teacher in the school district and they move here, that they would not be on probationary status here. Or can we evaluate them more often in their first year because they're new to us and we're a charter?
I think though, from my understanding, so I saw your comment, our teachers are year-to-year contracts. So we don't have to have, I think, and we can confirm all this, they're not probationary because if they don't meet the standard, we don't invite them back. So I think the difference is in the school districts, right? It's assumed you have a job until you're asked to leave. Where here, we ask you to stay. Each year, we're signing contracts, like, yep, you're invited back, you're signing a contract. So I don't think we need that probationary. I think that's not true for our system because we're not, charter schools are at-will employees.
What a order.
I don't know. Bottom of mine. Yeah. Some of that.
Lisa, your mic's on.
But we can certainly confirm all that, Joe, but that's how I understand it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I like to study that thoroughly, and I was looking at not the charter school statute.
Right, and I think that's the difference, is the charter school statute would be different, because they're at-will employees.
So I'm going to highlight a couple of things through here so that you guys know. So I put in here, starting January 1st through 2028 as a 3-year contract, but it has 2 components of it here. And one is, January 1st till the end of June. So then we start in another fiscal year, and then it's a 3-year kind of from that. So that's on page 1. And some of this were things that Randolyn had requested for her contract. Most of the bullet points are things that we had in the original contract agreement, and then we switched over to just a kind of a contract for consulting services. But when we first started, almost all these bullet points were in there. The founding board would recognize that. Fernando wouldn't have been in on that part. So if you read through that, you see all the things, she's expected to do. Dorothy pointed out number 8, exercise authority to back off a support contract with Classical Academy Management, as well as manage all school-related bank accounts. So that means she's working with the Classical Academy CAM with the Nevada State Bank account, and she also manages our other school account, which is at Elko Federal Credit Union, is how I would read that.
Except that that's not what we've just
That's
been
not what
talking
we just
about.
agreed.
So
So it's the other school-related bank accounts are managed by 3 people. You and Dorothy and Hank. So we may need to change the wording on this.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. It's just replace all with designated. So she's designated on whatever account she's designated to manage.
okay, so I wrote operational and school generated fund accounts, but I can write designated.
Whatever you put is fine, Brandon. It's your contract. I just somehow to make that a little more clear, since things have
How about this? So designated and then in parentheses, operational and school generated fund. Bank accounts, because that'll separate that savings piece. and
Yeah.
the Checking piece. So school generated funds is going to be the checking piece in the Elko Credit Federal. I'm responsible for that. I'm not gonna be managing the savings piece.
Right,
That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense to me.
So you're just changing basically one word there,
she changed it to say,
or let you
Several
change it a
words.
little more now.
Yeah,
Okay,
you change it, so as well as manage designated and then also.
so does that capture what you were thinking on that?
yeah,
Okay. Um. And I had put some other comments in after you did. After you print, or before you printed this, but I don't know if they all got in there, was the other thing. So the stuff that's in here that is kind of grayed out, like on page 3 of 12. Is that in, out?
Oh, I think, look, if you, those are just, track changes and it looks gray on yours. So look at the screen. I was just clarifying the date, January one,
Yep.
January 23rd or June 30. And then I put the goals up there because they were kind of floating around.
Yeah, and I saw you deleted like complete pre-opening tasks later in the document because it was in there in another
Yeah,
different
so I
spot.
moved it up, so, because that was just kind of floating. And then clarified the travel, like I still have to complete all the pre-opening stuff before I leave the country. Things like that, so that's why they're gray, is because there are track changes in the document.
Okay, so, I mean, 1 through section A just kind of describes all the things that she'll be doing. And then we get into B, the compensation. So for 6 months, she's asking for 50,000 payable, and they pay twice a month at Founders, is how they have that set up. So that'll be split up between those 6 months. And then her leave, well, and it's medical, dental, vision, and PERS, contract days by month, and then personal 2 days vacation. She's already scheduled that 5-6 days, and then payment to go to training, conferences. And then she's requesting payment for coursework to finish up her Masters of Education beginning in March 2025. And these are, she had listed the courses there that she needs to be completed by 2026. And I think she was requesting payment of, we pay 2/3, she pays 1/3. So the total cost of that would be $15,514. And then evaluation guidelines. Went through those before. I don't remember having any other changes on that I had put in. And then it switches into the 3-year portion, starting July 1st in 2025 and going through 2028. Just to comment on that, a lot of superintendents, school leader contracts are 3-year contracts. Some are 2. I've rarely seen a superintendent contract be a 1-year contract. And I've never seen them be over 3 years either. So they're typical, that's kind of a typical time frame for those. And then she's asking for 100,000 per fiscal year with the same benefits. And then holidays and personal days and sick days and things like that, she has specified in that. And then, so the salary here is at 100,000, but then there's, as you go through, the appendix then is kind of the pay bands similar to what we had for the teacher contracts. And then there's a large rubric of things. And I wasn't clear on that exactly on the rubric, because some are blank, some have words, some have numbers, to score in those ranges. So I wasn't sure if those needed to be in there where there's words, or if to give guidelines of how to score that. And then as you kind of move through, we'll come back through it on some of this stuff after I kind of talk about it, but and then you receive an overall score, points on those, and then if you're in a certain range, then there's a mean salary and a range of salaries. There's a law that a charter school administrator cannot earn more than a school administrator in a similar position in our district. And here, this one has $150,000. I had a question for SPCSA on that. Are they considering her position as the same as a school principal as
Right.
that, or as the superintendent? Because she's doing all the duties of a superintendent, and I don't have clarification on that yet. So I didn't know if these ranges were fit the law.
So are these ranges, like, what would the Elko County School District Administrator look like?
So the highest paid, they can't pay more than an elementary, the way I read it to start with,
Okay,
whatever the highest paid elementary principal makes, she could not earn more than that.
but is that what they're earning in Elko now, 150 at the highest paid?
No. If you compare it to Ashley Perkins, she's under that, but not much, 140 something like that.
Yeah, see, that's good.
Okay,
So that, to me, that's the comparison. And if we can compare to that, then that 150 range, but down here we have 180. And I don't think that fits any of that law.
mm,
So I just have a question about the ranges, and can we, see my comment on that? She has it up there.
mhm.
And that's what I wrote. I don't know what they're comparing it to. If you compare it to a superintendent, yeah, then it fits.
Right, I think we need just clarification on it. And these ranges, I just were ballpark, like I was trying to think, well, what does this look like?
Yeah, and I think that's, the amount of things a person in this position does, especially when you get to Trailblazer and what it takes to be in that band. We want incentives for her to have a high achieving school. And so that's kind of what the purpose of these bands are, is to, have them continue to improve and continue to improve the school, and then have a financial incentive for that. So it hits that. It's just, are we legal or not on the top end?
And you would have to ask SPCSA.
Yeah, because it's under their, it's in the law in there.
Mhm.
And did you see Amy's email about the length of time to get your administrative?
Mhm,
She suggested 2 years instead of 1.
mhm.
How do you feel about that?
I like that. I think that's wise, because we don't know what life's gonna hold, so I can always finish as planned, right? But it's probably good to have some cushion.
Oh, I just feel like, I don't know if Amy said this, I think she did. I mean, to start up a school this first year is gonna be challenging, and then in addition to that, trying to,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that protection for sure. Looking out for me.
yeah, I would definitely go with the 2 years.
Okay, I updated that thing.
I mean, that's my suggestion.
Yeah, it's an unknown. I mean, she can get a lot done in a short period of time. We've seen that, but
Yeah,
I think Amy stated it, the priority of the school versus the education.
just your own personal stress level.
Yeah.
Would be.
Yeah,
Well, I'm hopeful all my homework can be about this place.
Right.
So I'll be doing it like real time, right? But we'll see. We don't know that till I get in there and see.
Right.
Yeah, at least that gives you a little bit of a buffer to,
I like that. No, like I said, I appreciate that she's thinking about me as a human being. That's
Right.
nice to be thought of like that.
And I did take some stuff out of the original one because we had and a lot of days at Founders and a lot of days at EIAA. And I pulled that completely out. It can come back in if you guys want that, but I felt that she's gained the experience that she needs. And she's still going to be constantly communicating with them. There's going to be helping her all along the way. And I didn't want to send her away from here more now. So that and how many days did you spend down there? Or what would you say you've done with Founders? And
You said 13. I can look, I have it written down. I think I've spent 13 days down there already. And Joe and I had that conversation. Two things: one, time away from here is critical, and then two, budgetary. I think we've established the relationship strong enough. Now we can do a lot by Zoom, and we don't have to spend the travel dollars, because that gets expensive every time I go down there to do the reimbursing and stuff.
Is there another time of year this school year that you feel like it would be important for you to observe or be at the school in person? I mean, to me, you did the startup and all that teacher training. Now it's just, I mean, it would just be kind of, to me, more just run of the mill. I don't know what you'd be looking at.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what I don't know, but I know that I have a great working relationship with Bridget Holman, their elementary principal, grammar principal. And even like this week, I've been emailing her and asking her for documents, and she sends them right over. So I think we've established the rapport now that I don't need to physically be there.
Right.
Really,
Right.
to observe anything.
I guess the main thing is, do you feel like you have the vision by after visited all those places of what a classical
Oh, yeah.
model needs to be? Because I think that's the founding board. We know that group was what we want. We want that person with that background and that vision, and to make sure that that's the direction that we're going. And I mean, I see that from what I've seen, I think you have that. And you, so where all have you been? I guess tell us.
Just Founders and Treasure Valley.
Treasure Valley. Okay.
And you went for the day to Treasure Valley or more than one?
One day.
One day.
And you still communicate with them?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Again, not other schools are not as opening to training as Founders is.
Right.
Founders, we have a special relationship there. We have a special gift in their desire to take us under their wing and their capability. I think other schools are simply busy running a school and they can't bring on.
They don't want an
trainees right
intern
now.
in there.
Yeah, their focus is them, which it should be. So, yeah.
Right, and I know we want to get this going in January. It would probably have been good to have it signed today, but I don't know that we can sign it exactly as is. Yeah, but if we started in January, first meeting, if we're ready by then, we would switch to this. We would pay your PERS for that month, right? It wouldn't be like, okay, we're not going to pay your PERS for January. We'll see if we can get all that in place.
Well, and honestly, I mean, when we started all this, we didn't think I would get to PERS until March or April. So
Right.
As far as me personally, I'm feeling like we're ahead of where we thought we would be, because Colleen has got us hooked up with PERS. So I'm not worried about if it's January 6th. That does not bother me one bit.
All right, so we have a few things to, everybody make sure you completely read through that, and some of you have, so are there any things that you have comments on or would like to see added or deleted from the contract? Lisa, we'll start with you.
I sent you all those comments, Joe. Do you want me to go through all of them now, or do you want me to send them to Brandolyn as well?
Just hit the highlights on I know you had some typos and some things like that, but just the couple of main things. Why don't you tell them so the whole group sees it?
Okay. A few of them have been answered already. I had a question on, the list of, responsibilities, number 4. Two questions, really, two comments that I made. One was that, do we need to add into that first sentence after except board members? That we also need to add in that it's also except the school leader, these things related to herself. And I don't know the answer to that, whether that's normally incorporated, that she exercises final authority for all determination regarding school personnel and volunteers, except board members and school leader. I mean, obviously that authority would still sit with us as board. I don't know if that needs to be included or not. And then at the end of that, number 4, I was wondering if we should incorporate, because we are talking about compensation and some other things that are board approved. Do we need to just add a comment that it needs to be in alignment with board approved, policies and compensation and whatever policies?
I like that, in alignment with board policies. So cause appeals that are properly lodged with the board. I'll flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah, and again, that comment's in the notes I sent you.
Yep. I don't think we need to change anything about her hiring herself. I don't think we need, I think that's implied.
Okay. As long as, yeah, it's such a broad statement about compensation and evaluation and promotion and all of those things. Just making sure that it's clear that she is the final authority, except related to herself and the board.
Okay.
On number 12, I was wondering if we wanted to exclude capital projects, or if we want to call out capital projects or capital spending anywhere specifically related to finances, separate from day to day.
12.
Yeah, on page 2.
Yeah.
So excluding capital projects.
Yeah.
So you want to say appropriately manage all decisions excluding, where are you putting that? I don't get it.
I didn't flesh it out enough to tell you where it goes in there. We just, capital projects are not mentioned in here anywhere, and we talk a lot as a board about us being responsible for capital projects and fundraising and what we're doing with the money and everything else.
Okay, I get it.
So I think it should be either mentioned or excluded somehow, so that she's not responsible for that.
I think just I'll add it in as excluding capital projects. Yeah, the way Ron explains it, she's responsible for the budget. She creates it, we approve it. If she doesn't meet it, if she's spending money that she shouldn't, if she goes over, if we're in the red, it's on her. So she has to be able to do, she's responsible for all of that.
I completely agree with all of that, and maybe she is responsible for capital projects as well, but it just isn't.
I don't think she is.
No, I don't either.
No.
So that's why I would make that delineation.
Yep, no, I agree. Yeah, capital projects, partially, I mean, it's facility, right? Well, we're leasing that, so she can't go and just revamp the whole facility, because our landlord won't let her, for one thing. And we have to have the funding My feeling is when she needs more space, she's gonna come to us and say, I need more rooms. Right? And she may make recommendations and we have to figure out, well, where's that gonna be and how are we building new? Are we raising money? Are we, all of that stuff, so. No, okay, good on that one. I'll make that change. Any other ones?
I wasn't sure on number 13, if we want to include other classical schools in that list. I know it says, but not limited to, but that did seem to be a gap with how much work she's doing with, or how much connection she has with, other schools. May not be critical.
Do we want to say other classical schools?
That's what I had, other classical schools or other classical charter schools. But maybe don't limit it to charter schools, because there may be good conversations with private schools too.
Yeah.
Okay,
On number 16, submit to an annual performance evaluation. There's no mention in here of performing her own self-evaluation, and I think that's an important part of her annual evaluation. And that it isn't just, us, that she's involved in that process. So.
yeah, I think we can probably tie that to the appendix. Because she has to, just kind of same as the teachers, it's their responsibility to show the things that they've accomplished.
Yeah.
So I might, because these two kind of came together as two different documents. So I might try to tie it.
And in the appendix, I write that I totally agree with you, Lisa, and in the appendix, I wrote that I would fill out the same evaluation before you guys. So I would do my self-evaluation and give it to you guys to review, and then you do your evaluation on the same form. So I agree.
Yeah.
So it's in the appendix, but we can include it here as well.
And maybe it's just semantics for me, that in looking at this, it looks like you're allowing something to be done to you.
I appreciate that.
And that's not how the process will be. And I think there's responsibilities on both parties, was what I was all I was trying to make sure was understood.
No, and we need that because traditionally, that's not how it works. You don't get to do a self-evaluation in public schools. The colleges and things like that, they do, but did you ever get to write your own evaluation and
No,
say, here's what I've accomplished?
no.
I know I would ask teachers for the things they accomplished, but I never had them complete a self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Because that just wasn't a requirement. So I agree. I think we do that in there. So I'm going to connect it. I'm just going to say something like include a self-evaluation as per appendix A. Or where it's at.
And then I just had a handful of typos, and my last comment was one you've already touched on, Joe, which was are the maximum salaries even within our allowable payable salary, and you already talked about that, so. I'm happy to send my notes to you as well, Brandolyn, if you're the keeper of the current draft and you want to see the editing, the typos and other comments that I had.
Sure, I can update it. Yeah, that's fine.
I thought you were updating.
I'm going to update.
Yeah, Joe's gonna
She
do.
sent
Joe's
it
gonna
to
do
me
it,
and it
yeah.
had hers in there. And I might just, because you and I have been sharing it back and forth, I might just
Yeah, so
walk
this is
out.
on the drive one.
Yep.
So you can just hop on there. I highlighted all the ones you guys have talked about.
Yes, hers are already, she marked it up too, so.
Yeah.
I'll make my corrections on that one,
Yes.
and then you and I'll have it. Okay. All right, others. Did you guys, anybody else have any comments or suggestions?
The evaluation document will be created by the board, or who does that?
Yep.
There's a beginning of it in the appendix. That's what that big giant table is that incorporates the 16 characteristics on those.
Oh. Thank you.
And that's why I was
Okay.
questioning,
Right.
some of them are blank and there aren't any, what does it take to be a 3? What does it take to be a 2?
Yeah, and I got it updated from your comment. I think I sent it before I finished it, and then I went back and tried to fill it in. So now.
So scroll on the one on the screen. So that's page 10. So we keep going. So see how on hers now she has what things are in there, where on ours it's blank.
Right,
So it's been updated there, but you guys don't have that.
okay.
And these will need to be flushed out a little bit more, like what is exemplar, what is expected, but we can figure that out, over the next few months and then put those kind of expectations in there. Some of this we don't know yet because we're still figuring it out.
Right.
And I believe it's my responsibility to do her evaluation. And then I present it to the group, but I think it's mostly between me and her. By law, I believe. Is that correct, Brandon?
I don't know the details of that. I just
I
know
think
the board does it.
It's just different that the teachers don't get self-evaluations. I always have self-evaluations.
Yeah, and part of theirs is they have to do that. We started on the teacher one too, a little bit, but part of their process is for them to improve financially, they have to prove that they have, and if they're stagnant, that can be grounds for saying, hey, we want somebody that's going to improve and you're staying here and you can't prove otherwise. So if you don't prove to us, then we're going to find somebody else.
So when people go to training, when I went to training, when I came back, I met with the board president or whoever was assigned, and he goes, okay, you went to this training, so how are you going to, because we just didn't send you to the training,
Right.
but how are you going to apply what you learn?
And as she goes to these that she has on her list, and she'll give us feedback on that too. So, good idea. Okay, so this one I'm going to continue to work on. I'll bring it back, have it on the next agenda, and we'll see if it's ready for approval at that point. Having questions, legal questions, and then I also, if we think it's right, I might have legal counsel look at it to make sure it fits everything too. So we still have that step.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Calendar. So we're on item new business B, 2025-26 school calendar.
All right, that's in your folder under the calendar tab. So look under your, I think it's green if I remember correctly, calendar tab. This is subject to change, especially because if I understand correctly, the school district is having conversations about shifting their year a little bit. I don't know if it's for this school year or when, but long story short, I'll be monitoring Elko County School District because we know we will have families in both schools systems. So we may adjust a little bit, but this right now, based on what we know, this is the projected school calendar. So the blue are teacher trainings, and there are a total of 19 teacher trainings when you combine the blue and the orange. I separated those because curriculum trainings are specific to access literacy and Singapore math. Teacher work days and professional development may be a variety of topics. So I wanted to clarify what those different trainings are. So when we're interviewing teachers, this schedule would be shown to them, like you need to understand that you'll have some work to do in June and July and August, and then again starting school late August, 180 school days. The holidays are in red. Half days, 2nd and 4th Fridays will be half days for enrichment and intervention. School day is estimated to be 8:30 to 3 p.m. on full days and 8:30 to 1 p.m. on half days. That may change too once I dial in the schedule a little bit more. But that's kind of the general gist of things. Pretty traditional right now for this first opening year, and until we become a standalone school where we could have entire families, we need to be considered of aligning at some point, at some level, we need to align a little bit with Elko County.
What's their changes that they're looking at?
They're talking about starting earlier, if I understand correctly, they're thinking of starting earlier and being out by Memorial Day. Shifting into
They
starting.
did, yeah, they did a survey of would parents want to start before or after and end before or after Memorial Day start.
Labor
or
Day,
after Labor
Memorial Day. So I don't know what, and like I said, I don't know if and when, and then I heard rumors of going back to that 5 day a week. So I don't know, I think there's a lot that they're conversing about. And we will, like I said, we will totally honor that and shift as much as we can to match so that we're not misaligning families. And I mean, the way this is set up right now, I really actually like this for our teachers because we would go get some intense curriculum training weeks before we start school, which we all know is really good for the brain, especially for teachers. They could get intense curricular training, they can process it. We would be able to come together as a team and practice teaching with each other and then get the kids versus having curricular training and the next Monday you have kids. Like that's, we know that's not gonna work. So I hope we can retain the schedule, especially for our first year, because it gives some processing time. And that's important because trust me, I sat in that training and I was like, what are we talking about? It's a lot that these teachers are gonna have to grasp and then try to implement in a hurry. So subject to change, but this is where we're sitting, and this is what I would use at the, for instance, at the job fair to show them like, this is what you're signing up for right now.
Okay, so your numbers at the bottom, so they don't match. Right, so for example, instructional day count, you have 160 full days and 16 half days. But then over here, instructional day total, you have 180. So you don't have 180 instructional days in this calendar. You do have 160 full days and 16 half days, so that's 100
and then 4 conference days.
174, but you don't have a total of 180 instructional.
And then 4 conference days, so they're in.
That's not instructional.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Right. I mean, here you have total, you have it as an instructional day count, but you only have 100, should be 176 instructional days.
If they're in school on conference days, they don't count as instructional days? They're half days.
You're not teaching.
Oh, I guess we have to clarify what conference days are. In my mind, conference days were half days.
It's a work day.
But the kids come in the morning and the conferences are in the afternoon.
Afternoons.
So
Yeah.
so your conference days are what color?
Green. So October 2nd and 3rd and February 25th and 26th. So they're half days for kids and then the afternoons are conferences. That's what my brain was thinking.
Okay.
And that gives you the 180.
And that case, there's 180 instructional days, yeah. But they're being instructed in the morning.
Okay. And then, did you see Amy's comments about color?
Yeah, and I didn't change the color, but I updated the language, so it says teacher curriculum introduction and family event. Because the intent there is we're training on the curriculum and we're having a family event because we're going to pre-assess some of those kids when we're doing this family event.
So the 10th through the 12th of June.
Mm-hmm. So like
is a training day and family events on the same day. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, so like so Tuesday we'll train 8 to 3 like normal. Wednesday, we would maybe come and do noon to 7. And then we'd have a family event from 4:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
And then Thursday, we would come 8 to 3. And we would talk about what we saw happening at that family event with regards to the kids interacting with the literacy aspect. And then we would do that same pattern in July for math. Over those 3 days. So again, we're training the teachers, we're introducing the teachers to access literacy, then we're spending some time with our families, pre-assessing. And then we're talking as a team what we saw and what we need to start gearing up for. And then it gives those teachers some time to think like, these are the kids coming into my classroom. And we do that for literacy and for math. So that when the teachers see the kids in August, they've already spent some time interacting with them in an academic fashion.
And that family event isn't mandatory, is it? You're just
No.
getting whoever you can get.
Yeah, we strongly encourage,
Right.
but yeah, not mandatory.
Okay, and then, all right, so in June, there's 3. So teacher work days and professional development days.
Mhm.
All right, so we have 3, and in July, there's 7, so you have 10. August, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You have teacher work days and professional development.
Mhm.
But you have the yellow ones are half days professional development too, right?
Yes, but I did not include those as specific teacher work days because they'll be with kids half the day and then finishing off.
Those are counted in your total days.
Yeah, they're in the total days. They're captured as instructional days first, and then the data and PD is secondary to the instruction on that day.
Okay, and then 8:30 to 3 is the school day.
Mhm. And again, I'll dial that in with regards to Elko County. So the vision is that we would be the last drop off for families, right? Because according to Elko County, the information on their website, most of their schools are starting between 8 and 8:20. So they would drop off, or earlier, high school, 7 o'clock, way early, but the other elementary schools. So they could drop off at other schools and then drop off here last. And then we would be first out, pick up, and then they pick up other kids. So we're gonna squeeze in between the district schools. For picking up.
By they, you mean parents,
Parents, yeah,
because we're not busing.
yeah, for the parents to drop off and pick up. And we don't want to be in conflict. For instance, we don't want to be in conflict with, especially knowing our families, we can also, that will be what our registrar is doing, like where are all our siblings? What grade levels? So like, we don't want to be the same time as Flag View, right? Because then the parents are gonna be stressed out. So we're gonna push, if we can with our minutes, we'll push in where we're the last one. So they can drop off and then come over here and drop off.
And then teacher work day is what?
Teacher.
Time frame, start and end time.
Oh, like 8 o'clock to 3:30, 8:15 to 3:30, usually, right? It's half hour before and after.
So 7.5 hour weekday,
What's that?
it's 7.5 hours,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 30, 7.5 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know when I set a schedule, I just made them be there 15 minutes early and because we had, unionized contract, they could only do so many minutes per day.
Mhm.
So I added that time on the end of the day so that I could have time to meet with them, because otherwise we had no time to meet.
Right.
So I just said, you don't have to be there till 15 minutes early. Of course, they came a half hour early.
Right.
And then, if they needed to leave early, they left early, but at least I had it built in time and where I'd say, we're going to have a 45-minute meeting after school because we need the time to get together.
And we might do that too, because they'll have the 15 minutes where they're being read to in our school to the first 15 minutes of the day. So teachers have time to be in their classrooms getting ready for kids. Yeah, we'll have to think about how that looks.
Because we can do an 8-hour day. I mean, we don't have to do a 7.5.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, so picture that, because you have the yellow days, and half of those days is time where you're training and you're meeting, and so you have that built in there too. So it's just if you start with the short and you go and try and add it, that's the problem.
Better to start a little long, and then we can always renegotiate.
So you have 8 hours start when they come in to when they leave, and then they need a lunch and when you build your schedules. I know you've been working on that, is having that time for them to work on,
Mhm.
Prep time and all of that, break time, things. Okay, any questions on the calendar? I know for most of you, it's
It's a lot of colors.
there's a lot of stuff to think about in the calendars. And I'm glad we're not doing a long day for kids,
Me too.
because that's killed the school district, I think, the 4-day long days, especially for kindergartners.
Little ones.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
To approve the calendar,
Yeah, this is an action item, right?
possible action, okay, yeah, I'll move to approve.
I said,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote. Opposed? I vote aye for the record. Motion passes. Okay, we already did C, staff evaluation measure, so we do have that in here.
Yeah, last one, guys. Good job hanging in there.
This is under current meeting.
Yep, that should be the last. Should be in this current meeting for the back. Staff evaluation. So this is another SPCSA requirement. We get this done ASAP. It's again due January 15th, but I've already talked to them about the timing of our January meeting is a little goofy, so we may have to request extension. But this is another one that we don't have all the answers because we have to kind of get into this year and figure out what we're doing. But I tried to lay out how this is going to look. So the first key thing here is it's very important to me as school leader that our evaluation align with our mission. And so we have all 3 components evaluated, observed, evaluated, academic excellence, virtuous living, and civic responsibility. And it's the interaction between those 3 things that's really where we are humanizing, where we are humans, and where we are humanizing these things that we're trying to create in our school. And so I put that diagram together to try to kind of show like why we want to evaluate all these, because they all work together, right, to create this human. And that's what classical education is about, is educating the entire human being. So with that being said, I'm working towards figuring out how that looks. So based on SPCA, you have to have the 3 categories: school leader, teachers, and non-licensed staff. So school leader is pretty much what we just talked about. For me, we'll look at those, we'll use the Hillsdale K-12 16 functions. And the evaluation will be matching what's in my contract. We may need to align these documents because I created them separately, but they're going to come together at some point. So we'll make sure we get them all aligned, but it's the same 16 functions, and it's the same idea of like, what does this mean on boots on the ground? And then you'll notice at the end of that is the school culture concept. So as school leader, it starts with me. So making sure we're evaluating not just that I'm running an effective school, but I'm running an effective school with a culture that reflects the classical model and what we want it to reflect. So again, the process is there. And then the teachers, this is probably where the most conversation would come. But one of the things I know when I was teaching, I hated well, I shouldn't say that so strongly. I didn't grow as a teacher because of my evaluations, because they were either at the end of the year, and so you've already done a whole year, and they were so process driven with no actual input into teaching, if that makes sense. So I don't think we want to do that. So that's why I've argued that we're not going to use the Nevada Educator Performance Framework. It's too big. It's amazing. It's an amazing document. Whoever developed that spent a whole lot of time breaking down teaching and learning. And I think there's really good aspects in there, and we may want to pull some of those, but as a whole, it's too much. And it doesn't actually, there's no evidence that it creates better teachers. And that's what the evaluation process should do, is create better teachers. So I devised this idea that we would have observations throughout the year, which are not punitive, but that are useful information, that it's like, we call in the classroom formative assessment. So we're working with the teacher, where I'm watching them, we're giving feedback on specific things. And then there's one formal evaluation at the end of the school year. And that's what's used to decide if we hire them back to the next year. I proposed some key topics of observation in a timeline.
Can we, can I go
Yeah.
back? So that Nevada framework, that was one of the things I was looking in NRS, and that's required. So you sure it's not required for charter
For
schools?
charter schools, it's
Okay,
not
good.
required.
Because it does lock you down to,
No, it's not required.
okay, good.
As far as I understand, it's not required. Hence why I went this way. So some key aspects, and then Joe and I talked about this document a little bit already as well. These focus areas are not the only things that we're looking at. We're all, as evaluator, as observer, I'm always looking for good teaching practices holistically. But these would be like at the very beginning of the year, focusing on classroom management, and then thinking about helping this teacher think about differentiation and how they're assisting, interacting with the students. And then in January, you'd be looking at how they're presenting the knowledge and the fidelity of the curriculum. Like, do they actually know what they're talking about, or are they just reading it out of the book and it's evident that they have not learned it first? Which is going to be a big deal in classical, because we are having kids read. Amber was looking over the program guide, like the teachers are going to have to be reading books that they've never read before the kids read the book. So this academic knowledge and fidelity of curriculum is actually going to be a big deal, probably bigger than maybe traditional schools, because the teachers are going to be put in places that they haven't been before.
But you're giving them time. You're not starting them out of the gate in September saying we're going to start. You're giving them time to practice.
Yes, yes. And again, and this would all be communicated during those first teacher work days. We would talk about, like, this is how we do this here, and then talk about assessment strategies. So those would just allow us to have a real focus to the observation. But you'll notice down in table 2, we're always looking at rapport, classroom organization, presentation, student engagement, professionalism. Like, those are assumed that, like, to be a good teacher, you have to have those things happening all the time. So, and again, this is not perfect. It's not done. I think this is, and I wrote in here, just like the other things, like, as the year after year 1, we'll do a formal evaluation of this, and we'll say, like, did this work? Did this help us? Or do we need to revamp it? And then the values part is that informal observation. So this is what's happening outside the classroom. And I think, again, as a school leader who's responsible for establishing the culture, what happens outside the classroom is equally as important as what is happening inside the classroom. So how we talk to students in the hallway, how we interact with students on the playground, how we interact with students when they're getting out of their car, we're sending them home. And I've seen in schools, great teachers behave terribly outside the classroom, and we don't want that, right? So this idea, like, and this again is the conversation with the teachers during the interview, like, you are being watched always, right? And we're all watching each other, especially for this virtue part, right? Like but I have to tweak this and work on this because I also don't want this to become a watchdog and like, Andrew said, maybe, and Joe said, and Kim said, and I'm like, oh, okay, kids, let's get this under control. So I need to tease this out, but the idea here is that it matters and that your behavior, little eyes and big, but as models, little eyes are watching you everywhere. So you better be on your P's and Q's everywhere inside this building and outside, but I won't extend outside. So that's that informal piece, and the informal piece hinges more on the virtues. And then the self-reflection piece, that every observation and evaluation, the teacher gets the opportunity to self-reflect and bring that into the conversation. So we can, because especially observing, you're popping in there for 10 minutes and you might have walked into something and you want that teacher to have the opportunity to explain, like, this is what you saw, right? Because I know I've had principals walk in when my kids were looking like monkeys, but it was very controlled monkeyness and it was purposeful monkeyness. But if you didn't talk to me, you may not have known that, right? The administrator may have been like, what is she doing? But it was actually very purposeful. So I think that's that self-reflection and making sure we allow the teacher to also interact in that observation. So the last piece of this is the timeline. So the observations would happen throughout the year, and then there would be a formal evaluation in April. And again, that's the data that we would use to help us inform rehiring, bringing them back a second or beyond. So that's the teacher evaluation, and then we have to have other school administrators and non-instructional staff. So same informal observations, what they're doing throughout their day and around the school, self-reflection aspect to that, and then the formal evaluation that's based on their job description as well as the school cultures. So like Amber has a pretty specific job description, so we'll take that job description, put it into a form and ask, how did you do this? Well, what did you not do? And I can add this in here. I just had this thought. At Nevada Outdoor School, when we were creating all of our staff evaluations, we also included how long have you been doing such a thing. So for instance, if Amber is given a new task in March and her evaluation is April, is it fair to evaluate her on that the same as you would evaluate something that she's been doing for 5 years, right? So I'll add that in, this component of like, how long have you been doing this task? And because and the same with the teachers, that matters too, if they switched grades or if we've added something. I think that's an important piece as we remember this. You may not have been doing it. So if you've been doing something for 5 years, I can be a little more critical than if you've been doing something for 2 months, right? That's an important piece. So I need to add that in. But that's where we're starting. And so this will be like the policy document. I'll request an extension because it's due 1/15, but I can show that we're actively working on it, and then I'll update it some more, and then we can, you guys can approve it. Because I don't think it's ready to be perfect. I personally want to make it. There's more.
Okay, any questions or comments, suggestions?
I'm not I don't know much about teaching, but I thought that looks good. I think seems fair to me, regardless of what you're evaluating.
Yeah, and then you see my comments on here about, especially because you even said you don't want an evaluation at the end when you need help throughout, especially this first year. Typically, probationary teachers or first year teachers will get 3 evaluations in that first year. And then it gets determined whether they get put into post probationary status. We don't have anything like that built within this. And she commented that it's not sure that fits our strategy, but you and I'll have conversations about what those observations and post observation conferences look like. Ideas in those. which these guys won't,
And,
don't need to.
and we probably should write in here in those conversations, because I hear what you're saying, Joe, is, we need to write, what if we have a bad hire and then 6 weeks in, we know we've got a stinky teacher? We need to be able to, like, 6 weeks in, be like, you know what, sorry, we are not a fit. And have that figured out, what that's gonna look like. And that's part of this, because we would only know that after we've observed them a few times, and then it's like, no, you're not a fit.
And one of the things that I was trained in, the best observation tool and evaluation tool is a blank piece of paper.
Mhm.
And that's what I used. So, and then I script taped it when I went into classrooms, everything. I still have reams and reams and reams of that. So then you can walk through it. Those post observation conferences, you know, Kim can probably tell you, some of them were like, yeah, you're doing a good job, sign here, and we're, you know, mine were never like that. And you don't get improvement unless your observation leads to something,
Right.
right? Leads to change, leads to improvement, getting them to self-reflect, you know, and that's why I made the comment about, you have focuses on observation. You know, you're going to have a discussion with them about what they were doing and why they did it. That's why you had student engagement and questioning.
Mhm.
You know, when I have a conversation with them, is tell me about why you asked that student that question at that point in time, and why didn't you follow up with this question, and why are you doing individual questioning or instead of whole group, or
Right.
holding all students accountable in your questioning.
Right.
All right, there's a lot of strategies within that. So those conversations, especially at the beginning, that's what leads to the growth, and it's individual. I mean, every class that you walk in is going to be different at any point in time. So I didn't want you locked into, I'm only going to be looking at classroom management in September. When
No.
this person has no idea how to question students or keep them engaged.
Right. No, yeah, no, and I appreciated your comment, and that's, yeah, I think in my mind I knew that, but I'm glad you said that so we can capture that, so, yeah.
Yep. And it's an art, observing and evaluating and seeing and be able to recognize what they're doing. And I have no doubt you're going to do well at that. But it does take some experience there too.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, this is so much of this work. We're gonna have to figure some of this out once we start doing it. And in the classical model, the classroom looks a lot different. So that's just the other piece too, is not, because I think what happens, and we've all already experienced it as a board, and like we think we know what we're doing because we were thinking of what we're used to, and this is gonna be different. And so we have to make sure we leave enough space that we can adjust it into classical ed, because it's gonna look different. And we always go back to like, well, I know exactly what this classroom's gonna look like. It's like, no, I don't. I have no idea.
No.
So yeah, so I'll keep working on it and tidy it up a little bit more, and I'll send this as the draft to SPCA so they know we're working on it. And then again, according to Katie, that's as long as we're communicating with them that we're moving forward, that's what they're looking for. That we're not waiting till August to be having this conversation. So
Okay, so more to come on that.
more to come. Stand by.
Okay, moving on then to item number 10. No public comment. We don't have anybody there. Director's comments. Anybody have things they want to bring up?
I just wanna, I don't know what I don't know. I like that, but is that the quote that you read somewhere? I never heard that before.
What,
I say that a lot.
I don't know what I don't know.
I think this is like Rumsfeld years and years ago say that when he was Secretary of Defense, I think is where I first heard that. Like, we don't,
And I think.
like, yeah, you don't even know, you don't know.
You know, and
Thank
especially
you.
when you're dealing with people that don't have a background in something, and yet they want to share what they think is right. And I always think, well, they don't know what they don't know. Yeah, and
It's-
their knowledge of it might be here and yours might be here. So you have to be tolerant of them, because you still may have to educate them because they don't know all the
Thank you for
things.
the education. That's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I've always approached that.
Yeah. And when something is new, kind of like we've talked before, like we could talk all day about scenarios and what actually happens is gonna be, like, we haven't even thought about it because we don't even know. Right? Like, we don't know what's gonna happen. So we have all this planning, but the truth is we have to be like open to what actually happens. Cause we don't know what we don't know.
And the good thing is she recognizes that and she asks, right? She'll find a source to tell her what she doesn't know, which
I
is,
have a lot of questions. I'm not very good at saying, I don't know.
which is awesome. And a lot of administrators are not that way. It's, I know more than you, and this is how it's gonna be, and you can't be that way at school. It's too
I
much.
look forward to knowing something, guys. Someday I'm gonna know something.
Kim, do you
I
have
don't
it?
know when that catch my attention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have anything, Kim?
No.
No?
No,
Dorothy, Lisa, do you have anything?
I
Comments?
just had one question, and I don't know, Joe, if you mentioned it to Brandolyn. I wasn't getting any of the emails at my school email account. Is the information for the meetings going to that Outlook account as well, to the school?
It should be. So you're still not receiving anything?
Nope, I did not receive anything for this meeting there. I received it at my regular email address, which I know you CC'd. It looked like you had sent the board documents to the board, all of the board school email addresses as well. And I didn't
Mhm.
receive anything there. So I just wanted
Okay.
to let you know.
And
I
have you
didn't
ever
get it.
received anything?
I think last meeting I received it there, but this time it did not come through.
Okay, I'll check.
And I didn't get it. I wasn't copied on any of it. Lisa had to forward me the stuff for the meeting.
So it didn't come into your NCAE?
I wasn't, when she looked, I wasn't on, you didn't have me in there in the group. So it wasn't like you put it in and it didn't come through. It wasn't on there, but I'd been looking at all the documents all along, but
My sister.
I had her forward it to me today so I could, when we were talking, so I could look at it.
Okay, I'll double check the email. I may have goofed something up. I was trying to create like groups, so I just have to type governing board and you guys all come up, but I may have goofed something up. I'll
Yeah.
check Joe.
So
I
did you guys get it in your Outlook or did you get it
In my
in
personal,
personal?
but I didn't look in my other
Didn't
one.
look at Outlook.
I didn't either.
And yeah, like Dorothy, Kim, and for me,
Look at.
you guys always respond to me from your personal accounts. That's why I keep CCing your personal
Yeah.
accounts, because I'm trying to keep it easy. But you always reply from your NCAE account. Lisa, but that maybe explains that, Lisa, because I keep thinking, why is she writing me on her other account? So that's maybe why. Okay, I'll look
Yeah.
into it.
That would be great, and I appreciate getting it to my other one because I do check my other one more often. But I just noticed that it looked like you had intended to send it to the school email and it didn't come through there, so.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I'll look into that.
And the only other comment is I apologize that I'm not there in person. Y'all don't want this thing that I've had since Friday, so.
Yep.
Thanks for bearing with me on the video.
We appreciate it. And I think it works well.
Yeah.
So for anybody, if you're not feeling well, let's join in with that. So,
Yeah.
okay. Brandon, do you have any comments?
No, I appreciate, thank you guys. I know this is a long meeting, but thank you for hanging in there.
Still have lots to do. All right, next meeting to be held Wednesday, January 15th at 3 o'clock. So that was a change, right, from our normal schedule.
So we won't meet on, the regular scheduled meeting would be January 1st, which I don't think anybody wants to come. So you would only have one meeting in January, which would be January 15th,
15th.
1-5.
Right.
And that'll be 6 hours instead of 3.
Well, that's why this one was long. We tried to kind of front load. And then February, we'd be back on the first Wednesday, which would be the 5th. And so, yeah. Unless, I mean, you guys can, if you choose, you can set another meeting in January, but I think we're doing fine. And I think one meeting in January would be sufficient.
I think that's a great
You're on
idea.
the timeline, right? So as long as you feel like we're beating that, then
Yeah, I think we're good. And I'll, like I said, I'll communicate with the state and let them know that what we're up to, and I think we're fine.
Yes, and this Hank's not here, and
For the next meeting.
yeah, I'd let them know right away that we're not having to send out an email to everyone that we're not having a meeting yet, January 1st.
Okay.
To all their emails, so they can make
I
sure.
don't know, I know you guys are committed. You probably would if I asked you to, but I'm not. We need to have some rest as well.
Okay, anybody else have anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned at whatever time it is, 6:38, 3.5 hours. Oh my gosh.
Good job.
Ask.
Cloud.